Naruto used the hydrogen style to achieve nuclear peace in the ninja world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, Fight between elementary school students in ninja world. Little Yingshu, the nurse is going to treat you. Bear with it. In the sunlit consultation room, the nurse looked at the little boy in front of her and smiled. Okay, nurse. The little boy named Yingshu responded obediently and then stretched out his right hand wrapped in bandages. The nurse untied the bandages and a small hand covered with scars was suddenly exposed. A flash of heartache flashed in the nurse's eyes. After a simple disinfection, the chakra surged with green light, covering the small hands completely. This process lasted about 5 minutes, and the wound had healed almost completely. It is said that such a wound can be healed in one go under the healing technique. But considering that Yingshu is still young, excessive chakra stimulation may have sequelae, so he was treated 3 times. This is the 2nd time. I'm going to apply medicine to you. It may be a little painful. Bear with it, little Yingshu. Okay, nurse sister. Xiangai's answer. The little boy's obedience is very likable. But in fact, Yingshu actually wanted to say that he has adapted to this pain. He also wanted to say, creation and destruction always exist in correspondence, just like light and darkness, which are mutually opposed and interdependent. If you want to get something, you always have to pay a price. Of course, these words are still buried in his heart, otherwise it will affect his low-key personality. Okay, little Yingshu is really brave. Come back to change the bandage in 3 days. If it itches, don't remove the bandage. The nurse rubbed Yingshu's little head. Children who are obedient and sensible are always likable. Thank you, nurse. A few hours later, Yingshu's right hand was wrapped around a tight bandage. The bow on it was made by a nurse. It was neither loose nor tight, just right. Walking on the street on the way home, looking at the pedestrians around him and the familiar buildings, Yingshu looked a little dazed. I don't know if it's an illusion. Although he just came here not long ago, he always feels that he has lived here for a long time. Yes, he is a time traveler, and it has just been 100 days since he traveled through time. As a liberal arts student at Motto University, he suddenly came to the body of a 5-year-old boy and was indeed very uncomfortable. On the contrary, the high risk of this world in the blank period with unclear timeline gave him a great sense of crisis. It is now February of the 40th year of Konoha, and the ninja school has just started. The Third Ninja World War has just begun, and there are still 20 years before the start of Shippuden. He does not have a detailed understanding of what happened during this period, only a rough impression. Yingshu lowered his head and sighed. For a liberal arts student, a child from a civilian family, it is not easy to survive, even if he has a predictive perspective. My right hand should be able to bear chakra now. I hope it works this time. With his hands in his pockets, the bow on his right bandage was hidden. He walked faster and entered the dark alley behind the bustling streets of Konoha. He did not stop for the tempting takoyaki on the roadside, nor did he stop for the popular intimacy paradise in the bookstore. Iki's home is in a small woods on the outskirts of Konoha. The environment is remote, but no one disturbs him. He can usually go fishing in the river to supplement protein. When Iki arrived at the door of his house, a hedgehog-headed boy had been waiting for a long time. Are you okay? What did the doctor say? The hedgehog-headed boy asked him seriously. They said I need to change the medicine again, but I don't think it's a big deal. Don't worry about it. It's not a big problem. Yingshu answered quickly. Well, okay. The hedgehog-haired boy hesitated for a moment, but still couldn't beat Yingshu. If we run into those bastards tomorrow, we'll have to rely on this trick. The hedgehog-haired boy rolled up his sleeves and straightened his goggles, as if he was going to do something big. The two boys immediately started running, with a clear purpose and firm steps. Soon, the two came to a small river, surrounded by lush green forests. The clear river water flows slowly, and occasionally a few big fat fish jump out of the shallow water area. Warm reminder, this site uses cookie technology to save your reading records and bookshelf. So clearing browser cookie data, reinstalling the browser and other operations will make your reading progress disappear. It is recommended to occasionally take a screenshot and save the bookshelf in case you can't find the novel you are reading. But the two young men were not distracted, looking at each other, and the hedgehog-headed young man silently took out a lighter and a bundle of cotton swabs stained with oil. After the last failure, I summed up for a long time, and still felt that the problem was with the cooking oil. This time I secretly dipped my grandma's kerosene, and I shouldn't fail again. Well, you are very smart, Obito. It would be better if you could master the fireball quickly. Hey, it's a matter of time. Obito is open-minded. Yes, the one standing in front of Iki was none other than the third greatest devil in the ninja world, Uchiha. Why did the two of them get together? It all started from the day Iki just traveled through time. The original owner of this body was a little kid who was being beaten by a group of naughty kids when Iki just traveled through time. But the kids didn't know how hard they hit Iki, and he didn't even know that the back of his head had hit the brick. He was knocked to death, but they were still beating him. At this time, Obito, who was an easy on the road, appeared. With a passion for justice, Obito joined the scene of the beating. This pair of half-brothers also formed a deep friendship that day. Yes, what they have to do now is to save face for the fight scheduled for tomorrow. Don't ask why a highly qualified person with a soul in his early 20s would do such a thing. A man is a jerk until he dies. Then I'll start, Obito. Iki took a deep breath and said seriously. Obito nodded. Iki closed his eyes, carefully feeling the flow of chakra in his body, and made hand seals according to the ninjutsu scroll left by his father whom he had never met, and the way chakra operated there. He made hand seals quite quickly, thanks to the pen spinning skill he had acquired through years of hard study. In short, his fingers were very flexible. Even the bandage couldn't stop him from moving. Finally, the hand seal was completed, and his chakra was ready to flow out in a specific way. Water style, water bowl technique. Yingshu held his breath and shouted loudly. Then, he suddenly inserted one hand into the river surface. When he raised it, a small clear water ball appeared in his hand. D-level ninjutsu, water style, water bowl technique. It can remove impurities in the river water and extract relatively pure water molecules. It is not recommended to drink it, but it can be used for bathing and washing clothes. It is a very basic water style. It has no lethality, but it can make people's lives more convenient. The water ball is the size of a fist. Yingshu moved the water ball to the back of his hand. The water ball did not dissipate, but seemed to be attached to Yingshu's hand. After Yingshu's 2-month practice, he has mastered it proficiently and can easily control the size and position of the water ball. The highlight is coming next. Iki took a deep breath, and even Obito beside him became nervous. Last time, they were not far from the goal, but because of the improper coordination, Iki's right hand was almost blurred. Obito nervously used a lighter to light a cotton swab, and the small flame ignited with a sound. Iki was not idle either. His left hand basically remained motionless, and he only used his fingers to skillfully make hand seals. The movements were slow and light, while the movements of his right hand were a little bigger. It can be seen that it is still a bit difficult to control the ball and make hand seals at the same time. But fortunately, the process was very smooth. Iki has been studying this routine for more than a month. Finally, lightning release, lightning light. Another loud shout, and a dazzling blue light suddenly shone from Iki's right hand. That was lightning release. Obito's eyes flashed with envy. Although they were two of the lowest level ninjutsu, they were better than him, who had learned 3 moon-high fireballs, but couldn't even fart. Iki, he is indeed a genius. Warm reminder, if you can't find the book title by searching, you can try searching the author. Maybe he just changed his name. Chapter 2, 4 Chakra Fusion Ninjutsu. At this moment, Iki used lightning release with his left hand and water release with his right hand. Although they were both the lowest level ninjutsu, it must be a little genius to hear them. But Iki didn't stop the pace. What he had to do was far more than releasing 2 low-level ninjutsu at the same time in less than a minute. The education he received did not allow him to do such flashy operations. The small water ball on his left hand slipped from the back of his hand to the palm. Iki's lips turned a little pale. Although they were two of the lowest level ninjutsu, it was not easy for him to perform them at such a young age, and the amount of chakra was still too little. It would be great if I could master the 8 gates and creation regeneration. It would be hard to survive without blood. This idea suddenly popped up in Yingshu's mind. The 8 gates squeezes the body and provides chakra that far exceeds time. Creation and regeneration is to constantly repair the body. In this way, the chakra is endless, which can be called perpetual motion. But Yingshu still gave up this idea. After all, it is a bit useless. And now he needs to be focused. I saw his hand slowly approaching, and the lightning on his right hand directly stabbed into the water ball in his left hand. The lightning did not disappear, but a burst of bubbles appeared in the water ball. Yingshu held his breath and concentrated, carefully protecting these bubbles. Gradually, the water ball on his left hand began to become more and more distinct. The top is gas, and the bottom is liquid. According to someone who has studied, the top is water molecules that are trampled by galvanic electricity and decomposed to produce hydrogen molecules and oxygen molecules, commonly known as a hydrogen-oxygen mixture, which will explode. The bottom is still filled with certain impurities. Water 2H2O equals ELECTROLYSIS equals 2H2 plus O2. At this moment, Yingshu suddenly remembered the shining Mediterranean Sea of his junior high school chemistry teacher. Obito, are you ready? When the lightning in his right hand finally couldn't hold on, it faded away. The small water ball in his left hand, under Yingshu's fine control, was not able to react completely due to insufficient chakra, and there were impurities in the water, leaving only a bubble. Iki half crouched down, half of his body in a running posture, his arms stretched out, a bit like a cannon. But it was not him who ignited the fire, but Obito. Iki, let's start. 3, 2, 1, run. Obito finished the countdown, and then suddenly threw the burning cotton swab out. This time he threw it very accurately, hitting the center of the bubble in the proof at the moment when Iki was running away. The next second, boom. The explosion was several times louder than a firecracker. Iki ran away in advance and covered his head, but his ears were still buzzing from the shock. But the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up. It's done. It's done. Tuesday. Fuck. It's done. Yingshu. Bullshit. Yingshu. The two young men shouted at each other excitedly. They will definitely not lose in the fight tomorrow. That night, Yingshu returned home and took a good rest first. When his chakra was almost restored, he had another meal to recuperate. The next morning, Yingshu got up early and began to refine his chakra. It was not until noon, when the time for the fight was getting closer and closer, that Yingshu began to repeat the process of yesterday. But next to him, there was a small drink bottle. Hydrogen-oxygen explosion requires an open flame, and the space must be compressed. 400 milliliters should be enough. Yingshu calculated. Although he is a major student, he always passed the chemistry class when he was in junior high school. He is determined to win the fight today. Speaking of which, this is still a sad story. The physical fitness of people in the ninja world is stronger than his previous life. Iki feels that, even if he is in a body, he may not be able to beat those naughty kids. But he is not worried about the consequences. His previous life was beaten to the point of traveling through time, so why should he hold back? Besides, this amount is probably not even as good as a low-level fire escape. If Obito hadn't been so unwilling to fight, and had practiced the great fireball for so long without any results, the two of them wouldn't be so miserable. Warm reminder, this site uses cookie technology to save your reading records and bookshelf, so clearing browser cookie data, reinstalling the browser and other operations will make your reading progress disappear. It is recommended to occasionally take a screenshot and save the bookshelf in case you can't find the novel you are reading. But if someone thinks that he does this just to challenge a fight, that's a big mistake. Use lightning escape to electrolyze water escape, generate hydrogen and then use fire escape to ignite it. In a sense, he is creating ninjutsu. And it is a very complex, composite ninjutsu. Water escape plus lightning escape, plus fire escape. Hydrogen can also be controlled by wind escape. 2 chakra characteristics and blood inheritance limit. 3 chakras and blood inheritance are eliminated. Here comes the problem. What are the 4 types of chakra? Yingshu is not the childish guy who plays with cannons all day long. This is hydrogen release. He is going to do something big. Speaking of which, Yingshu always feels that he should be quite talented. His parents left him a small wooden house and 2 basic ninjutsu. His lightning and water chakra characteristics should also be inherited. But for this operation today, he did not rely on others. He explored and researched it bit by bit. This may be due to his strong soul, and his chakra operation is particularly delicate. The only flaw is that his chakra amount is too little. If this was the Senju clan, what they would prepare for those naughty kids tomorrow would not be just a small plastic bottle of hydrogen. This is the only way. After carefully filling the hydrogen jutsu that he had managed to hold back into the small plastic bottle, Iki quickly sealed the bottle. It's easy to make, but hard to preserve. And it's also necessary to prevent accidental leakage and friction during the process, which would lead to a bad start. Dong dong dong. At this time, there was a knock on the door, followed by Obito's voice. Iki, are you ready? The guys have already set off. They're coming. They're coming. Iki immediately put away the small bottle, hid it in his arms, then put on his shoes, and ran out in a flash. Did you bring anything? Of course. Obito took out a bottle cap from his pocket. The specifications and size are exactly the same as the bottle cap in Iki's arms, except that there is a small hole in the middle. Don't underestimate this hole. It is the key. It is the watertightness of a liberal arts student, and it is the stubbornness of 2 beaten boys before turning over. Obito took out a thumb-sized firecracker from his pocket, which was just the right size to fit into the hole. Stuff it now, or wait a while. Wait a while, don't let it leak, Iki said. The 2 smiled at each other. Then they went straight to the place where the fight was scheduled. The place where the fight was scheduled was a small park. No one would come during lunchtime. The most crowded time was in the evening. At night, sometimes suppressed voices could be heard in the corner of the park. In Iki's impression, Team 7 of the 3rd generation seemed to have been fighting for the bell in a park like this. He didn't know if it was the same place. The 2 of them didn't come early. The naughty kids, who were several times more numerous than them, had already gathered here because of their absolute advantage and confidence. Their clothes were very similar, but not because of professionalism, because they all came from the same family. Konoha, Uchiha clan. The leading guy was estimated to be around 10 years old, tall, with a hedgehog hairstyle similar to Obito's, but longer. Seeing 2 people coming, one of them had one hand in his arm stealthily, and several Uchiha naughty kids immediately started to ridicule him. Yo, you really dare to come? Obito, I thought a loser like you would bring your grandmother here. You are quite brave. Speaking of which, Obito's childhood was quite miserable. There was only one grandmother in the family, who was the last in school, and was not well liked in the clan. It was nothing to bring a grandmother here, but a few months ago, because he was beaten for protecting Iki, Obito was called the shame of Uchiha in addition to being a loser among the children. It was the guy in front of him who was from Uchiha Kitakaya who gave him the title. At this moment, the enemies were extremely jealous when they met. But Obito seemed very calm. He silently handed the firecrackers in his pocket to Iki. After a moment, Iki handed the small bottle with firecrackers, stuffed in the bottle mouth to Obito. Let's end this, Obito. Warm reminder, there are functions such as switch between simplified and traditional Chinese, adjust font size, and reading background color in the upper right corner of the page. Chapter 3, Fuck. Lie down. What should I say when I see Kushina later? The warm sunshine shines on the earth. It's just right at noon in spring with the breeze blowing. Minato was walking on the street. He was a little melancholy now. He had promised Kushina that he would go shopping with her after the mission was over. But just after returning to Konoha, a new mission appeared, and the situation was urgent. He only had 3 hours to replenish his equipment. He certainly couldn't leave without saying goodbye. He might die. But if he wanted to reason with Kushina, 3 hours might not be enough. What should I do? Just when Minato was at a loss, he saw a very interesting picture in his sight. 2 groups of little brats were confronting each other, and it felt like they were going to fight at any time. The side with more people has an absolute advantage, both in size and number. But look at the side with fewer people. There are only two of them, and one of them is obviously younger, and in comparison, even thinner and more pitiful. But the two of them still look confident. Fighting is not easy. Minato thought of Kushina when she was a child, who also beat every other kid with one punch. But in the current situation, he doesn't want to see the ones with more people bullying the weak, nor does he want to see the ones with fewer people being bullied. The little son of Konoha can do more than just smile. And at this time, the hedgehog-headed boy among the two boys suddenly took out a lighter. Minato was a little puzzled. But when he saw that the hedgehog-headed young man took out another small bottle and then ignited the unknown object inserted in the bottle cap. What is this? Minato could not understand the operation of the hedgehog-headed young man, but he still knew that playing with fire was dangerous. Immediately, his figure turned into a shadow and he came directly to the side of the young man in an instant. In Konoha, you can always trust Minato's speed. Even without using Flying Thunder God, his instant body technique is also first class. Let's settle the shame of the past today. Obito, who was about to throw out the secret weapon, was suddenly stunned. It turned out that the secret weapon in his hand encountered unknown resistance. Don't play with fire, kid. Obito raised his head, and what came into his sight was a sunny smile that was handsomer than his father. Under the shining sun in the sky, it seemed to give this man a layer of sacred halo. But the next moment, he heard the voice of his comrade. Fuck. Lie down. Was it fuck or lie down? Obito's brain was down at this moment, but soon, his head was pressed down by Iki, and both of them lay on the ground. And the next moment, boom. About 10 seconds later, when Iki's body barely recovered from the buzzing in his ears, looking up, everything in front of him made him widen his eyes. First, there were those Uchiha kids in the distance. They froze in place, eyes wide open and mouths agape, as if they were playing hide and seek in the woods, and had seen adults doing something shameful. Following their line of sight, Yingshu first swallowed hard, then almost froze and looked up. He saw a very wolfish figure. The cool and flowing golden hair was burnt a lot, and most of it was curled up. The half of the face was also burnt black, but it was no longer torn, so it was definitely disfigured. What moved Yingshu was that the man was standing with his waist bent and his arms around him. He must have reacted temporarily and wanted to protect the two of them. This is also the reason why the two of them did not suffer direct injuries. This warm reminder, there are functions such as switch between simplified and traditional Chinese, adjust font size, and reading background color in the upper right corner of the page. Yingshu was stunned. Is this an accident? Bang. The man fell to the ground, and this scene was seen clearly by several Uchiha brats. Go. 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 Obito and Yingshu killed people. An Uchiha brat shouted in panic, even with a crying tone, obviously frightened. If Obito had hit them at that time, they would have been the ones to die. How could the Uchiha brats have seen such a scene? They immediately ran away in panic and crying. Obito's shame was wiped out. But the current Obito's situation is not much better than those Uchiha brats. This. Obito looked at the man who fell to the ground, and looked at Iki in panic, pointing at himself, and then at the man. I didn't mean to do that, Iki. You saw it. It was him. He suddenly. Calm down. The soul of the adult played a role, and Iki shouted loudly, which really calmed Obito's mind. Then he quickly turned the man over, checked his breath and heartbeat, and only after confirming that he was not dead did he breathe a sigh of relief. The person is not dead, but he must be sent to the hospital as soon as possible, Iki said in a deep voice. He had learned how to deal with such emergencies in college, but he had not learned how to rescue a person who was knocked unconscious by a hydrogen bomb. But no matter what, he would definitely not run away. It was the same sentence. His education did not allow him to do such a thing. Yes, send him to the hospital, quickly. Obito finally came to his senses. Obito is a kind person. In other words, he was still a good boy before he turned evil. He would not flee after an accident and would not run away after bombing someone. In this respect, he is better than those Uchiha brats. The two boys spent a lot of effort to lift the man up. Konoha Hospital is far away from here, and they may not have enough physical strength. But fortunately, before they had carried the child far away, a kind person on the road saw this scene. "Kid, let me do it." A bold strong man stopped the two of them. Although he had a big scar on his face, he looked so cute now. The strong man carried the man on his shoulders, walked steadily and fast, and rushed towards the direction of Konoha Hospital in a flash. Iki and Obito breathed a sigh of relief. The two looked at each other, and their backs were inexplicably chilled. "He should be okay, right?" Obito asked, swallowing his saliva. "It should be a burn, not a slight concussion. It should be, right?" Iki was not sure either. "Then let's follow and take a look." Yes. The two boys showed their good character and followed in a flash. When they arrived, the man had already been carried in. The bold strong man was talking to the nurse, and when he saw the two boys coming, his eyes suddenly lit up. It was those two kids. They found the man first. At that time, they were carrying the man, one in front and one behind. "I was just lending a hand." After being shouted by the bold strong man, everyone in the hall looked at Iki and Obito. Indistinctly, praises of brave and excellent reached their ears. Who could have thought that these two were the culprits of the accident? The two of them blushed immediately. "It's okay, kid, he just had a minor burn." "No, is it little Yingshu?" At this time, a nurse came over, the same nurse who changed Yingshu's bandage yesterday. The nurse recognized the well-behaved child at a glance, and then rubbed their heads. As expected, it's little Yingshu. "What a good kid. Let me see your hand. Your injury hasn't healed yet. You have to pay attention." After the nurse said this, the praises around seemed to be louder. Yingshu's old face is getting redder and redder. Warm reminder, this site uses cookie technology to save your reading history and bookshelf, so clearing browser cookie data, reinstalling the browser and other operations will make your reading progress disappear. It is recommended to occasionally take a screenshot and save the bookshelf to prevent you from losing the novel you are reading. Chapter 4 Future Planning. Well, it's just a minor burn and concussion. You have a good physique. You will be fine after a day of rest. Thank you, but don't worry, your face is fine. It's just a pity about your hairstyle. But it will grow out soon, and it won't hinder you from picking up girls. The doctor obviously misunderstood and left the ward with a smile. Before leaving, he did not forget to give an order to Minato. "By the way, thank those two guys very much. If they hadn't found it in time, you would have a scar on your face." As soon as the voice fell, the two boys standing at the door were tensed. Just when the two were at a loss, a figure rushed over in a hurry, and the red hair was particularly eye-catching. The woman looked anxious. When she passed the door, she caught a glimpse of Minato inside. However, Minato, who had changed from long flowing hair to a macho buzz cut, was not recognized. The woman continued to run forward, but obviously could not find her target. Not long after, she disappeared in the corridor. "Alas. You are so anxious. I don't know what kind of suffering your family has suffered." The doctor sighed, then shook his head and walked away. Obito was also deeply moved and sighed with him. Alas. But Ika's heart shuddered. He seemed to have thought of something. Red hair, blonde hair. It can't be such a coincidence, right? As soon as this thought came up, the woman turned back. This time she no longer looked for people based on her feelings, but followed the room numbers on the wards and looked for them one by one. After confirming Minato's room number, the woman first looked inside. "Kushina, it's me." Minato's somewhat tangled voice sounded. Ika's heart skipped a beat. It was really Kushina, the person in there. Well, no wonder she was able to stop Obito in such a short moment. This speed was not in vain. Obito's heart was also tense. It's over. The main person's family has come, and they were so nervous just now. I'm afraid they will scold them to death. But, puff. First there was a sneer, and Kushina came to the bedside, with both heartache and amusement in her eyes. "Your hair, PFFT. Where's your hair? Ahem. This is an accident." Minato smiled bitterly. "Is he okay?" Kushina laughed for a long time, then she remembered the important matter and asked hurriedly. The smile on Minato's face became even more bitter. "It's okay, thanks to those two little guys. If it weren't for them," Minato said, looking at the two little heads peeking out of the door. The two boys' expressions tensed again. "Really?" Kushina also looked at the two boys and waved. Come in and let your sister see. I just heard about it downstairs. I have to thank you two very much. It's decided. When Minato is discharged from the hospital, I will take you two to have a big meal. How about it? Iki and Obito looked at each other, not knowing how to answer for a moment. Good guy, you blew someone up and put him in the hospital, and you can still treat him to a big meal? I made an impolite request. Can I blow him up again? What did you say? Minato on the side spoke. His eyes were a little complicated at first, but soon he looked at the two people with a smile. I'm Obito of Uchiha Obito. I'm Iki, only the name. It's not uncommon in Konoha to have only a name but no surname. Even some big families hide their surnames, such as Tsuna. But Iki has no surname. He simply doesn't have one. He doesn't deserve it. He is a regular civilian family. Refer to Jiraiya and Orochimaru. Obito, Iki. Minato murmured, secretly remembering the names of the two. Then, with Obito's increasingly nervous expression and Iki's increasingly complicated eyes, he suddenly smiled. Thank you guys this time. The little son smiled brightly, and even his buzz cut could not affect his charm. Obito was shocked at first, and his eyes turned red on the spot. Iki didn't feel anything at first, but after he was sure that it was Minato, he felt relieved. But after looking at Obito beside him, he still pursed his lips artificially. Okay, it's settled. Kushina clapped her hands to adjust the weird atmosphere. Warm reminder, this site uses cookie technology to save your reading history and bookshelf, so clearing browser cookie data, reinstalling the browser and other operations will make your reading progress disappear. It is recommended to occasionally take a screenshot to save the bookshelf, in case you can't find the novel you are reading. This guy can't be discharged from the hospital for the time being, so let me take you two to have a big meal. How about a Jiraku ramen? Minato. Hokage-sama, I'm sorry, While Kushina took the two boys to eat ramen, Minato with a short haircut quickly handled the discharge and came to the Hokage building. But it was already late, and he had been unconscious for 4 or 5 hours. It's okay, I've asked the Anbu to replace you. Is that right, Minato? Sarutobi Hiruzen waved his hand and asked him concernedly. Minato's face was full of shame, and he said, no, I was just a little careless. I didn't expect. Haha. Looking at his depressed disciple, Sarutobi Hiruzen laughed. After what happened, he already knew the general situation. Minato was injured and hospitalized, and Konoha was attacked, which was no small matter. The results of the investigation were also ridiculous. It turned out that two groups of children had an appointment to fight and accidentally injured Minato, who was a senior ninja. Are today's children so fierce? But soon, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Minato with interest again. Minato, do you know what the Enbu found when they investigated the scene? Minato was stunned at first, but soon his expression became serious. Sarutobi Hiruzen did not wait for him to answer and directly announced the answer. The traces left at the scene look like detonating talismans, but they are not the same concept. Do you know what I'm saying? Minato nodded thoughtfully, and his eyes also burst into a strange light. Yes, it's not a detonating talisman. If it is a detonating talisman, I can't just get this little injury. Then, it could be a technique. Minato said, his expression became strange again. Here comes the problem. What kind of technique is it? Is it put in a bottle and ignited with firecrackers? I don't know about that. There are indeed slight traces of chakra at the scene, but it's not obvious. Since your mission has been replaced by someone else, you can go and learn about it during this period of time. Maybe it can help you with your recent research on the unmarked ninjutsu. Sarutobi Hiruzen smiled faintly. Minato's face became serious. Yes, at night. After eating a big bowl of unjust noodles, Iki said goodbye to Obito with a heavy heart and returned home. He rarely refined chakra, adhering to his principle of the early bird catches the worm. The main reason is that Kushina is very enthusiastic. He and Obito are a little tired, lying on the roof, looking at the stars and the lonely moon. Iki did not bow his head to think about the complicated emotions of his hometown, nor did he show interest in the three people. He was thinking about his future. The power of hydrogen release is so great, it can be seen from the end of Tenminzuman. If the amount is a little bigger, the detonating tags will have to go aside. And the most critical problem, the release time and opportunity, will be solved sooner or later. It's nothing more than a problem of proficiency in ninjutsu level. It will happen sooner or later. What troubled him was not these, but two quantities, the quantity that determined the upper limit of the scale of hydrogen escape, and the quantity that determined the upper limit of the power of hydrogen escape. One is quantity, and the other is quality. Quantity is nothing more than the amount of his chakra, which cannot be determined by talent, but only by blood. There are solutions, 8 gates plus creation and regeneration plus yin seal. The chakra perpetual motion may be realized in theory. It's just a bit useless. The water needed for hydrogen escape cannot be water escape made by chakra alone. He tried it, and it was just a form of energy that could not be electrolyzed. He couldn't always rely on borrowing water from nature to electrolyze it into a hydrogen and oxygen mixture. Then, he will be like the average water ninja, and will be easily restricted by the terrain. He also thought of a solution, yang escape. Yang escape can give chakra a certain degree of creativity. The great pillar's wood escape can be retained after the ninjutsu is lifted, which is the reason for yang escape. In theory, if the water escape is injected into yang escape, it should also be preserved. If you want to learn yang escape, it is not very difficult. 8 gates of ninjutsu, or medical ninjutsu such as palm ninjutsu, are a form of yang escape. So next, do I have to capture Might K? Yingshu murmured. Warm reminder, this site uses cookie technology to save your reading history and bookshelf, so clearing browser cookie data, reinstalling the browser and other operations will make your reading progress disappear. It is recommended to occasionally take a screenshot and save the bookshelf to prevent you from losing the novel you are reading. Chapter 5, Kakashi's uncharacteristic behavior. Did you hear? Iki and Obito went to fight with someone. What a pair of troublemakers. Teacher Guante hates people like this the most. Iki shouldn't go to a fight, right? And it wasn't just a simple fight. They seemed to have beaten someone so badly that he had to be hospitalized. What? This is too horrible. Those Uchiha said it themselves. The uncles from the Anbu went to their house to investigate. Beautiful moments are always short-lived. At the end of the weekend, Iki came to class with his small school bag, but he always felt that the way his classmates looked at him was not right. The female classmates were okay. After all, Iki also had the face of an anime hero, and looks equal justice. This point will never go out of style. But the male classmates were different. They all avoided his gazes, and didn't even dare to look at each other, especially the Uchiha. When he glanced at them, they were shocked, and didn't dare to say a word. Iki felt that his image might have collapsed. He used to be a low-key academic master. Iki, what we did is exposed. When going to take seats, Obito arrived earlier than him, which was rare. The Uchiha clan's territory was remote, and it was not the same as Iki's family's remoteness. Moreover, this guy lived in a remote area of the Uchiha clan's territory. Last school, he almost caught up with 250,000 people. Being late is normal. However, Obito seemed a little excited and nervous that day. Normal. Probably the guys from Beijing Film Academy sued my parents. But don't worry, the real boss has forgiven us. It's not a big problem. Yingshu was calm. If there is anything, please contact my lawyer. Is that so? Obito suddenly realized, thought about it, and still felt a little worried. Finally said righteously, don't worry, Yingshu, if something really happens, I will take responsibility for everything. Then can you share half of your lunchbox with me? I got up late and didn't cook. No problem. At this time, Yingshu accidentally found that there was a gaze from the front row of the class, secretly looking at him. It was a white-haired boy who sat in the first row of the class. He could hear the teacher's lectures clearly, and was the first to leave after school. It was the top student of the first grade of the ninja school, the son of White Fang, Hatake Gogoke. Iki raised his eyebrows and gave him a smile out of courtesy, but he didn't seem to appreciate it, frowned. His eyes suddenly became a little disgusted, and then turned his head away, ending the stare. Wow. You turned your head, you are so arrogant. Iki also lost his temper, but then again, he and Obito have such a close relationship, so if they are divided into classes, there won't be a third classmate, right? Gogoke and Rin, who will give up on their own initiative? Iki glanced at Obito who was already drowsy next to him. The teacher talked about the morality of ninjas, starting from the 3 taboos. Become a good ninja today, which is the second most efficient class for hypnosis. No one is the history of the ninja world. It must be said that Iki still doesn't want to see Obito's bad behavior. The process is too heartbreaking. He licked Obito and ended up with nothing. He was also deceived into doing 18 pyramid schemes. If possible, Iki still wants to help Obito. Iki has already thought about how to help him. Start with Yang release. On the one hand, start to attack A and see if he can get the 8 gates. He can only touch and possess Yang release chakra. If he wants to be a user, he has to find another way. Palm Immortal technique is the way Iki wants. Conquer Might Guy, improve Yang release, learn Palm Immortal technique, master Yang release, and then realize chakra perpetual motion plus dehydration. Most importantly, you can replace Lin and become the medical ninja in the team. The plan is perfect in theory, and it also realizes the closed loop. Yingshu is going to register at the ninja hospital after school. With his relationship with the nurse, it should be no problem. Ding ling ling. Warm reminder, to facilitate everyone's book selection, the ranking page of the website has been optimized. You can try it. The bell for the end of class finally rang. Obito woke up from a dream and subconsciously looked at Yingshu next to him. Is it time for lunch? No, there is still a practical class, Iki said lightly, looking at the classroom that was basically empty. Oh, then wake me up when it's time for lunch. I didn't sleep last night, so practical class? Obito suddenly became energetic, sat up abruptly, his eyes shining. Practical class. That's a chance to show off. How could Master Obito miss it? Let's go. Iki, it's time to show your skills. Obito rolled up his sleeves, straightened his goggles, and walked out heroically. Iki also sighed. After all, he is just a child, and he gets excited when he encounters physical education class. Yes, isn't the practical class in the ninja school a more hardcore physical education class? What they practiced were shurikens throwing, senshin jutsu and even fighting between classmates, not basketball, singing, dancing and rap. Why does it feel like something weird has sneaked in? Iki didn't think much about it, packed up his things, and immediately walked out and ran to the training ground. But just as he walked to the door of the classroom, a cold and not so friendly voice rang out. If you use detonating tags in a fight, even if you win, it's not a glorious thing. You and Obito broke the rules, Iki. In the past, those who dared to speak to their academic master plus last place combination in this tone were usually Uchiha. But today, Uchiha was surprised, and the person who spoke was none other than the aloof Kakashi. Iki's expression suddenly became strange. Detonating tag? Can detonating tag achieve zero pollution? That's too narrow-minded 50-50. But Yingshu thought about it, and felt that being misunderstood was not a bad thing. He had no intention of handing over the hydrogen release. The technology tree of the ninja world was crooked. What he, a primary school student, could do, other ninjas could do as well. Even if it was exaggerated, his delicate chakra control was a natural gift, and few people in the ninja world could do it. Then a water release ninja plus a lightning release ninja. It should be possible to perform a combined ninjutsu, right? Thinking of this, Yingshu suddenly raised his eyebrows. Speaking of lightning release ninja, Kakashi in front of him seemed to be one, right? If they formed a team in the future, he would provide the water release, Kakashi would provide the lightning release electrolysis, and Obito would be responsible for the ignition. Wow. Let alone the Kamisama Bridge. Even if the Iwagakure gang wants to create a landslide to kill Obito, it all depends on whether the hydrogen release agrees. Thinking of this, Iki turned and looked at Kakashi. Kakashi was holding up his dead fish eyes, but just like what happened in class, he did not hide the disgust in his eyes at all. Just at the first glance, Iki gave up the idea that just came to his mind. It's too difficult. Let's rely on myself. When he masters the changes in chakra properties in the future, let alone the reaction process, he can complete the ignition step by himself. He can even use wind release to control hydrogen, whether it is compression or long-range attack, he can do it by himself. What's the use of you, Kakashi? Obito holding a match. What about me? TT. Anyway, I hope you won't be so annoying in the practical class later. Kakashi didn't know what medicine he had taken wrong, but he hadn't finished yet. Iki even wondered if he had missed something important that had happened in Konoha recently. Oh, yes, you're right. Impatient Iki also waved his hands on the spot and then left with a perfunctory look. Kakashi was left alone in the classroom, frowning and looking unfriendly. This guy. Warm reminder, if you can't find the book title by searching, you can try searching the author. Maybe he just changed his name. Chapter 6. Exchange the Rasengan for that technique. The winner is Hatake Kakashi. Both parties signed the seal of reconciliation. When Obito, who was covered in dust, was pinned to the ground by Kakashi, as if his fate was sealed, Iki could only sigh that things in the world are unpredictable and things will always change. Thank you for your hard work, it's Uchiha. Kakashi took the wrong medicine. There was nothing I could do. Damn it, it was just a little bit off. After the game, Obito was still dissatisfied. It turned out to be a clone. Kakashi is really a fool. Iki curled his lips with some contempt. There is a big gap between the two of you. Is it just a clone technique? You fight to the death, but he doesn't even break a sweat. But to be honest, Kakashi is really strong. He went to school at the age of 1, graduated at the age of another, became a chunin the next year, and when Obito finally graduated and became a chunin again, he became a jonin again. A true protagonist. Iki had no intention of competing with Kakashi, as he was taking the route of a high-end elite, an intellectual. His martial arts was a pen, not a kunai. As for the practical class, just give it a try. Just like that, the morning class ended. Iki and Obito came to a small playground next to the school, and each of them sat on a swing. Obito took out the rice balls made by his grandmother, 4 in a pile, and they each took half, and ate them with relish. Oh, when can I become a ninja? Obito threw the leftovers into the trash can after eating, clapped his hands, and suddenly sighed. What's wrong? Yingshu ate slowly, just swallowed the last bite, and asked. No, I just suddenly envied those ninjas. Obito said, that fool yesterday, I have to say, he is really amazing. It's okay to resist for a while, and, I didn't see clearly, when he ran behind me, and that sister Kushina. What's wrong with Kushina? Yingshu asked with a raised eyebrow. Did this guy notice that Kushina was different? Not really. Kushina is a member of the Uzumaki clan, not to mention her blood limit. She is also very good at using the 8 trigram seal. Obito should not be able to detect the Ninetales aura. Didn't you notice, Iki? Obito suddenly looked at Iki with a serious face. She was so calm when she paid yesterday. That was 3 big bowls of ramen, and it was a special ramen with char siu and Naruto roll, more than 100 taels per bowl. 3 bowls. TSK, ninjas are really rich. Iki's expression gradually became shocked. You are worthy of it, Obito. People can't guess what you are after you turn evil, and your thoughts before you turn evil are also so strange. It seems that Kushina took good care of you 2 little guys yesterday. At this moment, a clear voice suddenly sounded behind the 2 of them. The 2 were stunned for a moment and turned their heads together, only to see a handsome blonde-haired guy with a buzz cut smiling at them. Iki was surprised. Oh my goodness, isn't this Minato? For a second, he felt that he had met the grown-up Minato. Senior, is there something wrong? Obito asked a little nervously. Just call me Minato, don't be nervous. I just want to talk to you about what happened yesterday afternoon. Minato smiled warmly and rubbed Obito's little head. But his next words surprised the 2 of them. I've been developing a ninjutsu recently, and it's basically in the final stage of completion. The jutsu you 2 performed yesterday was quite powerful. Can you tell me how to do it? Although Minato said this with a smile, his smile was also very sincere and sunny. But when it was translated into the minds of the 2, it changed. As expected of Minato, are you here to investigate? Yingshu thought to himself that the jutsu that Minato was talking about must be the Rasengan, but he didn't think Minato would need the help of 2 little brats. Appearing here, most likely because of reminiscence, that explosion had nothing to do with the detonating tag. As expected of a jonin, are you here to settle the score? Obito was panicking. It was supposed to happen, and it finally happened. The 2 boys looked at each other. Obito saw a thoughtful look in Ikki's eyes, and Ikki saw a glimmer of realization in Obito's eyes. 2 seconds later, Obito suddenly pushed Ikki away, and he slammed into Minato. Warm reminder, there are functions such as switch between simplified and traditional Chinese, adjust font size, and reading background color in the upper right corner of the page. Ikki, go away. I'll stop him. Obito roared, like a warrior who sacrificed his life for justice. The wind was whistling, and the Yi River was cold. However, Minato's body was able to dodge and directly avoid Obito's self-sacrifice. Obito didn't break and fell directly into the trash can. The air was silent for 2 seconds. The two looked at Obito's confused behavior and were a little confused for a while. Has he always been like this? Minato's smile was a little stiff, and he tilted his head in confusion. He wasn't like this sometimes. Today, maybe he ate too much. Ikki covered his face and wanted to dig out a 3-bedroom and 1 living room from the ground in embarrassment. I wanted to say that I didn't know this guy, but Ikki still helped Obito get it out of the trash can. Obito, who regained his freedom, lowered his head, and his little face was red to his ears. Seeing Obito like this, Minato's eyes also flashed with understanding. The reason why he didn't expose the two's behavior yesterday was that he was afraid that the two would feel too guilty. But now it seems that he thought too much. Children's hearts are always simple and pure, and he was the one who didn't consider it carefully. Come to think of it, I have to thank you too. If I hadn't been blown away by you two yesterday, I'm afraid this technique of mine wouldn't have been formed so quickly. Minato chuckled, and as he spoke, he spread out his palms, and the chakra visibly gathered on them, constantly jumping and spinning. After a while, a restless chakra ball appeared. The whole body is light blue, and the chakra inside is spinning wildly. It seems to be untraceable and a little crazy, but it is actually very stable. Obito and Ikki both widened their eyes. Ikki knew the power of this jutsu, and used it from the beginning to the finale. It is the signature of the Hokage. Although Obito did not know the details, he looked very impressive. This is the ninjutsu I just developed, called the Rasengan. As you can see, it is an unmarked ninjutsu. Minato explained with a smile, and then his eyes swept over the two boys. His eyes were so clear and sincere. I want to make a deal with the two of you. I can teach you this jutsu, and you tell me what happened yesterday afternoon, okay? Ikki was stunned. To be honest, he was tempted. Minato must have lied, and the reason he lied was not the so-called deal, but his motive. Ikki doesn't think that the Rasengan was created by him and Obito, but he believes what Minato said about the exchange of ninjutsu. It's nothing else. This man is just like this. He can be called the little son of Konoha. Do I have to learn the Rasengan before I can use the 8 gates? Ikki murmured in his heart. How can I describe this deal? It's not a sure win. It can only be said to be $1 million. Using a half-baked hydrogen release in exchange for a Rasengan that can be passed down for 3 generations. This is equivalent to exchanging a handheld wooden stick for a golden legend. Besides, his so-called hydrogen release is not a blood inherited limit after all. It will be exposed sooner or later, so it's better to be frank than to hide it. And who knows, if Minato is interested in this technique, he can help him study it. This is the genius little son who can comprehend the flying thunder god. Ikki's heartbeat quickened. He glanced at Obito, but found that Obito was also looking at him. It can be seen that Obito was very moved, but Obito was not a person who would forget his loyalty after seeing something. He would not tell it without Ikki's permission. With this in mind, Ikki no longer hesitated. Actually, it's not a big deal, Minato-senpai. Ikki let out a breath and said slowly, it's nothing more than borrowing from the reality of nature, adding a little bit of my personal feelings. Ninjutsu comes from life, but it's higher than life. The principle of my ninjutsu is like this. Obito looked at Ikki and talked. At this moment, he felt that Ikki turned into light. Warm reminder, the problem of saving bookshelves across devices for logged-in users has been corrected. If it still cannot be saved, please remember the contents of the bookshelf first, clear the cookies of the browser, and then log in again, and add it to the bookshelf. Chapter 7 Two-handed ball control. That is indeed a technique, Hokage-sama, and it is a composite ninjutsu that has never appeared before. Oh. Sarutobi Hiruzen was interested. Tell me more about it. Minato hesitated for a moment and finally exhaled with a complicated expression. It is a combination of lightning escape and water escape. According to the child, he accidentally discovered it while fishing by the river. This is an inspirational story. An orphan, who often lives on Konoha's relief money, lives a very tight life and wishes he could split a penny in half. Sometimes he doesn't have enough to eat and he has no money to carry, so he can only go fishing by the river and try his luck. But the orphan has a dream of becoming a ninja. He studied and learned the 2 basic ninjutsu his father left him day and night. Until one day, when he was trying to electrocute fish by the river, he discovered a magical phenomenon. His lightning escape technique was very basic and weak, and it was far from being able to electrocute fish. However, a lot of bubbles popped out in the clear river water. Anyway, whatever the future of this technique is, it was discovered by that child accidentally. It's not some blood limit. Minato sighed after saying that. He didn't expect that the 2 seemingly naughty kids would have such a hard life. But he didn't seem to miss the point. After listening to this, Sarutobi Hiruzen was silent for a moment, then sighed and asked, Minato, then the power and potential of this technique, do you have a general understanding? This is the point. It's hard to comment. Minato's expression was complicated, and his eyes were a little hesitant. The process is too complicated. It requires precise control of lightning and water. The water cannot be water, it must be water from the environment. After preparations are ready, a second person is required to be responsible for detonating, or storing and igniting with a delay. The whole process requires the caster to have extremely delicate chakra control. Once there is a problem in any link, the technique will not only fail directly, but also may be dangerous. Minato said with a bit of guilt. Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression gradually became interesting. What kind of jutsu is so complicated? A second person is needed to detonate it, isn't it? If you have the time, can't you just throw a few more detonating tags? Minato had been preparing for this for so long, even if it was a ninja's dream, and he was still ready. Konoha, maybe it will usher in another young genius? Question mark? Like Minato? But after Minato's introduction, Sarutobi Hiruzen realized that he had thought it was simple. Minato. Sarutobi Hiruzen paused when the word came to his lips, but he still forced a kind smile. No matter what, the child's efforts are worthy of recognition. I will ask someone to help improve the child's life. If you have time recently, you might as well give the child some pointers. By the way, how far have you improved your Muji ninjutsu? The topic finally turned back to Minato's Rasengan. Minato smiled confidently. It's already succeeded, Hokage-sama. Really? Congratulations, Minato. I know that you are better than that idiot Jiraiya. Squeak. At this moment, the door of the Hokage's office was pushed open. In Konoha, there are not many people who can enter the Hokage's office without knocking. The cold and evil man who walked in is definitely one of them. He has long hair and purple eyeshadow on his face, which sets off his twin snake pupils. He has a cold aura, but a unique charm. He is the cold king of Konoha, Orochimaru, one of the 3 ninjas. Teacher, you are looking for me, Orochimaru said in a hoarse and charming voice. As he spoke, he also noticed Minato with a blonde crew cut next to him. Orochimaru recognized him at a glance and nodded slightly to greet him. You have a nice hairstyle, Minato. Minato smiled bitterly. This is an accident, Lord Orochimaru. I was just telling Minato about this. Sarutobi Hiruzen said, a talented child has appeared in the village. At such a young age, he has already started to study and create ninjutsu. I'm just like you, Orochimaru. Orochimaru was silent for a moment, and in his seemingly calm eyes, a strange light flashed for a moment. Really? That night? Warm reminder, to make it easier for everyone to choose books, the ranking page of the website has been optimized. You can try it. Yingshu sat on the bed, with a small round balloon filled with water in his hand. Yingshu tried to inject chakra into the balloon, and make irregular movements. According to Minato, if the balloon can burst, he will be close to mastering this technique. Yes, this is actually the second step in the training of Rasengan. The first step is to condense chakra in the palm of the hand, but Yingshu has already learned it, and he can even condense it on the back of his hand. As chakra was injected into the water balloon, the honest balloon suddenly became restless, but the movement was small and looked a little shy. Iki tried for a long time, but still failed to burst the water balloon. It's a bit difficult, Iki sighed after letting out a breath. After school the next day, he gave up going to Konoha Hospital to learn the palm fairy technique. He didn't even say hello to Might Guy and went straight home. The reason was to practice the Rasengan. Speaking of which, Iki still felt a little regretful. After all, he was a time traveler, but he was actually moved by a Rasengan. It was really embarrassing, especially when Minato was teaching the two of them the principle of the Rasengan. Past memories flashed in his mind. Jiraiya taught Naruto, Sasuke taught Boruto. He was watching them all in front of the screen. Just think of it as a certificate of legal possession of the Rasengan. Oh. After taking a deep breath, Iki focused his attention on his palm again. He had to master the Rasengan in the shortest possible time, because once he started the Yang release plan, he estimated that he would not have the energy to study this skill. A palm ninjutsu and an 8 gates release would definitely drain his body and energy. The next morning, Iki went out with dark circles under his eyes. In addition to textbooks, there were 2 water balloons in his school bag. When it came to the classroom, Obito didn't come so early that day, and after a day, the discussions among classmates in the class were much quieter. Good morning, Iki. Did you not sleep well last night, Iki? Good morning. Iki greeted his classmates, then quietly found his seat, and took out 2 water balloons. Yes. Iki was controlling the balls with both hands. The second stage of Rasengan training tests chakra control. This is Iki's strong point, and he also wants to practice hydrogen jutsu while mastering Rasengan. Ding ling ling. The bell rang, and the teacher stepped onto the podium. Obito rushed into the classroom at the last second, apologized to the teacher with a smile, and then sat down next to Iki under the teacher's cold gaze. Phew. It's a close call. Grandma was not feeling well today. It's really hard for her to cook by herself, Obito said with a lingering fear, and then turned to look at Iki proudly. You are in for a treat today, Iki. Master Obito will come down personally, eh? Obito finally saw Iki's little movements under the desk. His pupils shrank, and his face was full of surprise. You are like this? Obito was obviously surprised by Iki's two-handed ball control. But at this moment, Pa. 2 water balls burst in succession, soaking Iki's trousers and legs, and shaking off Obito's chin. What happened? Iki was thoughtful and unsurprised. It was just a bursting of a water ball, which was normal for Iki who had been studying hydrogen escape for 3 months. The next step was to deal with the ball, which was the highlight. Iki, you. Obito had lost the ability to organize his words. But the teacher hadn't, and the two of them moved very quietly, and all the students in the class were looking at them. At this time, the benefits of good academic performance had to be reflected. Although Iki's performance in practical classes was always mediocre, his performance in cultural classes was always the first. Even Kakashi had to circumvent this point. And Obito. Uchiha Obito. What are you doing there? Stand still. Right now. Immediately. Warm reminder, to make it easier for everyone to choose books, the ranking page of the website has been optimized. You can try it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8: Obito being pressed to the ground. Time flies. Before I knew it, a month had passed. A month is not too long or too short, enough for people to develop a habit, or accomplish some small goals. Konoha Hospital. Don't be nervous, little Yingshu, just follow what your sister taught you, and release the chakra. Believe in yourself, you can do it. It was the nurse who bandaged Yingshu. Yingshu had known her name half a month ago, Irritate Kumi. A middle-aged uncle with a cut on his shoulder sat there. The cut was not big. He said he accidentally cut it when he climbed through the window. No one knew why he climbed through the window. The middle-aged uncle looked a little helpless at this moment. Young man, why don't you just give it a try? No. Yingshu said seriously. Medical ninjas must be responsible for every patient. Excessive courage will only affect treatment. But if you don't start, I'm afraid my wound will heal. The uncle smiled bitterly. Compared with his inconspicuous wound, whether her affair with Jizzy was discovered by her husband was his biggest concern. Coming to the hospital was just to hide and to let this little guy who aspires to become a medical ninja practice. I'm going to start. Finally, Yingshu took a deep breath and began to make seals. Palm ninjutsu, also known as healing technique, activates one's own chakra with a specific seal, and when applied to wounds or affected areas, it can have a rapid healing effect. But not everyone's chakra can have this effect. There are so few medical ninjas, and there are so few people who master palm ninjutsu, and there is a reason for that. To become a medical ninja, the most basic and most important thing is to have special chakra that can activate palm ninjutsu. That is Yang escape chakra. Yang escape can be innate, such as the Akimichi clan's multiplication technique, which is a family secret technique passed down from generation to generation. Of course, after mastering the change of chakra properties, you can also try it. Hideki's luck or talent is good. In addition to thunder and water, he is also very compatible with Yang escape. This saves him a lot of effort. For example, he doesn't do 100 push-ups every day or walk a few miles upside down to stimulate his body to have Yang escape. Green chakra surged in his palm, and life energy continued to flow into the tiny wound. Almost a second later, Yingshu finished the treatment and looked at the middle-aged uncle in front of him with hope. "How is it? Are you better?" The uncle was silent for a moment and then answered after careful consideration, "It should be better, right? Then it is." Yingshu immediately stood up and bowed politely. "Thank you for your cooperation, welcome, and good health." It seemed wrong to say welcome in the hospital. Yingshu changed his words in time to avoid embarrassment, and soon he felt a small hand pressing on his forehead. As expected of little Iki, it's only been a short time, and you've already become a medical ninja. Congratulations. Nurse Kumi ruffled Iki's hair. The soft touch made her want to stop, and in a moment, Iki's head had become a chicken nest. "It's all thanks to Senior Nono and Sister Kumi's good teaching." Iki answered obediently, and then looked at another older woman. The woman wore a pair of big glasses, and looked gentle and intellectual. The reason why Iki was able to learn the palm fairy technique was due to the existence of this woman. "Your hard work and talent are the most important. I hope you can become a qualified medical ninja. You have a bright future," the woman said gently. As a former root elite, Nono's bright future may have other meanings. But Iki didn't care. He had already mastered the basics of the Rasengan, and was considered half a disciple of Minato, and had long been labeled a lineage of Hokage. Yes, he already knew how to use the Rasengan. Half a month ago, he still controlled the ball with both hands, and he had already exploded 2 balls. Speaking of which, the Rasengan is quite magical. When Naruto learned it, two shadow clones helped him roll the balls. Warm reminder, if you think this book is good, please remember to add it to your bookshelf to avoid not being able to find it next time. When Boruto learned it, he became a mini Meru. It can only be said that, although the chakras of this father and son are equally crude, Iki has no shortcomings in this regard. His Rasengan started with a two-handed Rasengan, a true two-handed Rasengan. But he couldn't use 2 Rasengan in one breath at present, because he didn't have enough chakra. When he exploded 2 rubber balls, they didn't explode at the same time like water balls, but exploded one by one half an hour later. But now, after the Rasengan, he also learned the Palm Immortal technique. Yingshu's progress in this month is not small, and some plans can be implemented. By the way, this class of children is really excellent. Just when Yingshu was about to say goodbye and go home to prepare for the big day, a few nurses were chatting and caught his attention. "That little girl can even treat wounds. She's such a genius." "You mean Rin-chan? I saw it yesterday, and I was really shocked. But little Yingshu is not bad either. It's rare for a boy to have such delicate chakra." This conversation is so superficial. Why can't boys have such delicate chakra? Yingshu sneered in his heart. The more powerful the technique, the more precise the chakra operation required. These nurses' remarks are really women's views. But Yingshu still agrees with Rin's talent. Don't look at her low profile. She is a medical ninja who can complete an eye transplant at the age of 11. Talent is definitely not a shortcoming. I have to work harder. Yingshu decided secretly in his heart. In order to prevent the tragedy of Obito from happening again, breaking up Team 7 is the best option. Walking on the way home, Yingshu felt a little tired. After all, his foundation is still too weak. And he is still young, and his chakra is too little. The 8 gates ninjutsu plan has to be accelerated. A good cook cannot cook without rice. This will not go on, Yingshu murmured. But just when he passed a dark alley and was about to go home to rest, he caught a glimpse of several figures from the corner of his eye, and a hedgehog head was pressed to the ground and rubbed, which made Yingshu react instinctively. I bought a watch last year. Let go of Obito. With a sprint and a flying kick, Iki kicked away a violent man and came to Obito who was lying on the ground. No, Obito. No, you're here, Iki. Obito struggled to stand up. There was blood at the corner of his mouth and a big lump on his left eye, which looked very miserable. What's the situation? Iki asked hurriedly. He realized that the people who beat Obito wildly were basically familiar faces. It was still the Uchiha guys, but in addition to Uchiha Kitakyo, it seemed that there was another older Uchiha. The alley was too dark, and Iki couldn't see the man's face, but he was a head taller than Uchiha Kitakage, and most importantly, this guy was wearing a helmet. He was a ninja. I wanted to come to Konoha Hospital to find you, but I ran into them on the way, and they dragged me over, and beat me up without saying a word. Obito gritted his teeth and said, be careful, Iki, there's a ninja in there. Iki's eyes darkened. Is this the guy who picked up the explosive talisman to blow you up last time, and then got blocked? In the shadows, the Uchiha with the helmet asked, his tone full of disdain. It's my cousin. It's them too. If we hadn't been stopped by a ninja that day, we would have been blown up by him. Uchiha being fanned the flames. Warm reminder, to make it easier for everyone to choose books, the ranking page of the website has been optimized. You can try it. Chapter 9, Obito's social death. Obito stared at Uchiha Kitakage in front of him. Iki wanted to cheer Obito up, telling him not to run away when facing such an enemy, because he couldn't. But seeing Obito's momentum, Iki chose to shut up again. Come to think of it, although Obito is the last in the class, he always lags behind in cultural and practical classes. But most of the reason is Kakashi. Obito always challenges Kakashi in practical classes, rain or shine, so his current record is 0 wins and 9 losses. Please help me buy some time. It wasn't Iki who said this, and Iki was also shocked. He glanced at Obito and found that Obito was a little different today. Could it be that the Uchiha bloodline has awakened? That shouldn't be the case. Yingshu thought to himself, but his body had already moved. There is no point in saying more. Believe in your own fists. It is more reliable than talking. Yingshu moved his legs and rushed forward, but when he was about to rush in front of the people, he suddenly took out something from his pocket. It was light and not big in size, so he held it in his hand and threw it at the people. I didn't kill you last time. This time, I will blow you and your cousin together. Yingshu roared. It's an explosive talisman. Uchiha Kitakage yelled immediately. The light was too dim, so he couldn't see what Yingshu threw, but he was shocked and instinctively thought it was an explosive talisman. Calm down. The Uchiha with the forehead guard shouted coldly, and he dodged suddenly and had the thing in his hand in an instant. It was indeed the feel of an explosive talisman. But the feel was not right, a little small and a little thin. The Uchiha looked carefully and saw that it clearly said 20% discount coupon for Ichiraku ramen. TSK. The panic in the Uchiha's eyes turned into disdain, and there was a lingering fear. It should be said that, if an explosive talisman exploded in such a small space, no one could hide. And he has always wondered that a kid of this age should not be able to touch a detonating talisman. That's why he dared to grab it with one hand. Cousin. Uchiha Kitakage had covered his ears. God knows why he had to cover his ears when facing a detonating talisman. But at this moment, Uchiha Kitakage looked at his cousin with admiration. Don't make a fuss next time. Don't forget your last name. As an Uchiha, you are timid and submissive. What kind of person is that? Cousin is right. Cousin is awesome. Uchiha Kitakage nodded repeatedly, and then looked at Iki provocatively. It feels like a big thigh. That's good. But at this moment, Obito, who had been ignored by everyone, spoke. Iki, get out of the way. Iki fell to the ground immediately. He already knew what Obito was going to do. About 3 weeks ago, the two had a disagreement on the training of the Rasengan. Don't get me wrong, it's not a high-end disagreement on the training method. Obito is not worthy of it. It took Obito 10 whole days to be able to condense the chakra in the palm of his hand. Not to mention the water ball, it was difficult to maintain it. So Obito decided to give up the training of the Rasengan for the time being. Maybe that crew-head ninja is fooling people. What kind of unmarked ninjutsu? A chakra ball. What can be so powerful? It's better to practice his fire style. Great fireball. Iki tried to persuade him at that time, but Obito had already made up his mind, so he couldn't say anything. Besides, practicing the great fireball would at least help him understand what chakra is. Since that day, the two of them basically had nothing to do except for classes. After Iki roughly mastered the Rasengan, he began to try his luck at the Konoha hospital. As for Obito, he began to study the great fireball painstakingly. At this moment, Obito held his breath and concentrated, his hands steadily forming hand seals, and each seal was so standard. Chakra was slowly mobilized, without the swift and frenetic fire escape ninjutsu. It was just a steady fight. That's silly's impossible. Uchiha Kitakayu's cousin was shocked, because he didn't master that technique until the 3rd grade. Could it be that this kid is a genius? Fire style, great fireball jutsu. Obito took a deep breath. He was finally ready. Iki protected the back of his head. He didn't want to be the second Minato. Iki felt a little sigh in his heart at this moment. Obito, have you finally grown up? And the next moment, warm reminder, there are functions such as switch between simplified and traditional Chinese, adjust font size, reading background color in the upper right corner of the page. The air suddenly became hot. Obito vented his chakra crazily. After a whole month of hard work, he will finally get the proof today. Don't you have a lot of people? Aren't you looking for your cousin? Doesn't your cousin have a quota? Come on. Hurt each other. With madness in Obito's eyes, the scorching fireballs continued and disappeared. Well, not enough chakra, plus too much psychological activity, causing the final release of chakra to be delayed by half a second. The ninjutsu failed. Obito's great fireball was mute. This. Yingshu waited for a long time, but he didn't see the Uchiha fire escape that was known for being immortal. Even the Uchiha in front of them, who were frightened and lost their souls by Obito's aura, were stunned. Puff ha 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 ha. The taunts rang out one after another, not to mention the finishing blow. The insult was also very strong. Yingshu stood up silently, glanced at Obito who was confused, and sighed. You are worthy of it, Obito. Go dark, go destroy, I support you. Yingshu took a deep breath, then silently looked at the Uchiha in front of him who were laughing so hard that they were almost out of breath. Obito, help me buy time. It's my turn. Chakra surged in his palm. It condensed into a ball and spun rapidly at the same time. Obito recognized it at a glance and didn't care whether he died or not and just widened his eyes. Although it was a little smaller, it was definitely the same as the one used by Minato Sr. that day. Rasengan. Boring trick. Uchiha Kitakage's cousin noticed Yingshu's unusual behavior and showed disdain. No harsh words, no ridicule. Although the difference in strength is there, the pride of the Uchiha clan makes this Uchiha with a forehead guard just want to end this fast quickly. Whoosh. With a flash, a punch went to Iki's lower abdomen. Iki's eyes turned cold. The next moment, Obito appeared, crossed his hands to block the punch, and then he also stepped back and came in front of Iki. Hiss. Obito took a breath of cool air. It hurts. He believed in Iki. His fireball failed, but Iki's Rasengan will definitely work. Don't think you can do whatever you want, just because you have a helmet. Master Obito is going to beat you up. After a loud roar to encourage himself, Obito actually took the initiative to charge again, looking for death. The Uchiha ninja was only 11 or 12 years old and was teased by two little kids in succession, so he was already furious. Seeing Uchiha rushing over, he raised his leg and kicked him out. This kick was powerful and hit Obito's big face directly. Coupled with Obito's own charging speed, Obito was kicked out of the face on the spot, and his nose bleeds wildly, and he flies backwards. Cousin is awesome. Beat this Uchiha shame to death. Uchiha Kitakayo behind him cheered loudly. Iki. He looked at Obito who fell to the ground, battered and battered, but still struggling to stand up. Iki wanted to go over to help him, but his chakra had already condensed in his hands. Giving up now would be tantamount to giving up. Damn. I used too much palm technique today. Iki cursed in his heart. He has practiced too many times in Konoha Hospital, and he doesn't have much chakra left now. It's not enough to condense a Rasengan that can be sustained. At this moment, Iki is desperately mobilizing chakra. Chakra is a kind of energy produced by all cells in the human body. Excessive use will trigger the body's self-protection mechanism. Adults may be able to suppress themselves with their will, and Iki's soul is strong enough in two lives. But the problem is, he is too young, and he can't squeeze out much, even if he tries hard. Damn it. Iki gritted his teeth. At this time, Obito, who stood up shakily, suddenly looked at Iki, grinned, and raised his thumb. Don't worry, Iki, I am fine. It can be seen that Obito has reached his limit. It is difficult for him to stand up, and he can't even stand steadily. The Uchiha ninja is still approaching. It seems that he is imitating adults. The slower he walks, the more powerful his momentum is. Obito. Iki was stunned. After a moment, his eyes gradually became colder, and a hint of madness suddenly appeared. I can only take a gamble. Warm reminder, the problem of logged-in users saving bookshelves across devices has been corrected. If it still cannot be saved, please remember the contents of the bookshelf first, clear the browser cookies, then log in again, and add it to the bookshelf. Chapter 10. What should I do if I have no place to borrow fire? Yingshu has always been a stable person. He once swore that he would never reconcile with gambling and drugs for the rest of his life. But today he is afraid that he will break his vow. Obito can't hold on for much longer, and he himself can't hold back his chakra. There is only one way left in front of him. Mobilize the Yang escape chakra first. Yingshu flipped his palm, and the condensed chakra ball on his hand dissipated immediately. But the chakra did not disappear, but ran to the back of his hand. Yingshu began to make seals with both hands. First is the water ball technique. There is no water here to use, only a stinky ditch, but Yingshu does not intend to use external forces. He has been practicing the palm fairy technique for more than half a month, isn't it for this moment? Water escape. Yingshu shouted loudly, and his volume and momentum were no weaker than Obito's. But no one was paying attention. Obito was getting beaten, Uchiha Kitakage was struggling, and Uchiha Kitakage's cousin was even more dismissive. And Iki's actions continued. The chakra on the back of his hand turned into a small water ball, which kept spinning, just like a Rasengan. But the Rasengan has no chakra properties. Naruto's Rasenshikuin is infused with wind attribute chakra to change its properties. Iki's water ball only looks like a Rasengan. In essence, it is just a spinning water ball. But what he wants is a water ball. There's hope. Iki's eyes lit up. The fusion of Yang escape and water escape produced a technique that was really different from the previous ones. He made a seal again. This time it was lightning escape. It's true that he doesn't have much chakra left, but after a month of training, his total chakra amount has increased a lot. Although he can't use a stable Rasengan now, he can more than make a hydrogen release of the day. Iki is not sure how long his Yang release, the small water ball, can last. But theoretically, after injecting Yang release, it should exist like wood release. Bang! Obito was hit by another punch, and was knocked away, then rolled on the ground twice, and landed at Iki's feet. He couldn't get up anymore. His nose and face were swollen like a pig's head, and his vision was only a slit, but he looked at Iki firmly. Don't worry, Obito. Iki nodded, and the lightning in his left hand had merged with the water ball in his right hand. Bubbles kept appearing in the water ball, and Yingshu was ecstatic when he saw this. Yang escape plus water escape can really produce water molecules that can be decomposed. But here comes the problem. Water escape that can be electrolyzed. Now there is one. His lightning escape has enough electricity, and at this moment, the water ball has expanded a little and turned into an air ball. But, where is the fire? Yingshu looked at the Uchiha ninja in front of him. He is not very tall, just a half-grown child, and it will take several dozen months for him to become an adult. Such a person should not have fire on him, right? Yingshu was shocked. The experiment was successful, but what if there is no place to borrow fire? Waiting online very urgently. But at this time, I didn't expect you to know ninjutsu. But your jutsu is worthless in front of Uchiha. The Uchiha ninja started to make a seal, and the seal looked familiar to Yingshu. Wasn't the great fireball that Obito just used this seal? How could it be? Let me show you what the useless jutsu looks like. Fire style, great fireball jutsu. In that 0.0007354454 second moment, Yingshu was confused. But soon, he reacted and pushed his hands hard, pushing out his yang hydrogen style. Although it was gas, and although Yingshu didn't know wind style, it didn't matter, the quality was there. The distance between the two sides was also very close. With Yingshu's push, the hydrogen ball immediately lost its spherical shape. The Uchiha ninja only felt a gust of wind coming, and a sneer appeared on his lips. At this level, his fart was stronger than this. The next moment, the chakra turned into flames and erupted. Song, blast. The fireball appeared as expected, but it was deformed as soon as it appeared, and then it reacted with the hydrogen in the air and exploded instantly. The powerful shock wave and heat wave flew the Uchiha ninja far away, hitting his cousin and a group of younger brothers behind him, and then all flew out backwards. Yingshu threw himself on Obito at the critical moment. Now he couldn't care about his hairstyle. Obito had been beaten into a pig's head. He couldn't just sit there and watch. The heat wave came as expected. Warm reminder, the problem of logged in users saving bookshelves across devices has been corrected. If it still cannot be saved, please remember the contents of the bookshelf first, clear the browser's cookies, log in again, and add it to the bookshelf. But it was within the range that Yingshu could bear. He felt a little hot on his head, accompanied by a burnt smell. Yingshu was startled, and instinctively got up to put out the fire with his hands. When he finally saved his head, the scene in front of him also made him scared. The enemy fell down. The explosion came and went quickly, but the starting point of the explosion was the fireball of the Uchiha Kid Ninja. He took the most power, and his entire upper body was charred black, while the Uchiha kids behind him were smashed to pieces, and no one was standing. Oh no. Yingshu shuddered in his heart. Will this be directly killed? The fireball certainly won't burn people to death, but it's not certain if it's hydrogen ninjutsu. Cousin. Uchiha Kitakage climbed up desperately, looking at his unconscious cousin. The thigh he regarded as an idol didn't move, and he cried out wow on the spot. The crying seemed to be contagious. The kids around were already frightened by the explosion, and started crying one after another. Yingshu saw it, but his eyes gradually turned cold. In his original world, no matter how much hatred there was between the two sides, if one side died or was seriously injured, the dispute would stop without any prior agreement. But it's different here. This is the ninja world. If he hadn't been able to use the hydrogen release just now, the one crying now would have to be Obito. Well, Obito probably couldn't even cry. After all, it was a fire release. A genin's fire release. Iki. Did we win? Obito's weak voice rang out. Iki raised his eyebrows, looked back at Obito's pig head, then exhaled and smiled. Of course. He helped Obito up, and the two brothers snuggled up to each other, and finally looked at the crying Uchiha brat, and their actions were inexplicably consistent. Turned around and left without a trace of pity. Uchiha Kitakage, his cousin, may be dead, or he may not. With Iki's exposure to Konoha in these days, it is likely that he has severe burns and concussions, and his internal organs may also be bleeding. But, who knows? No matter what, he wouldn't have come out, even if he didn't fire a fireball. The two brothers limped out of the alley. As the sun set, the shadows of the two boys were stretched out. But what the two didn't know was that on the telephone pole just above their heads, a figure was staring at their departing backs. Interesting. Orochimaru's cold snake eyes were filled with interest. Is this the combined ninjutsu you developed? Orochimaru glanced at the dark alley filled with crying, and the corners of his mouth gradually curled up. Old man, this time, you made a mistake. Hiss. It hurts. Can you be gentler, sister? If you know it hurts, don't fight in the future, understand? Konoha Hospital. While applying medicine to Obito, the nurse Kumi scolded him in a harsh voice. Konoha Hospital does not charge any fees to ninjas, even first year students of the Ninja Academy. Besides, there is also the insider Iki. They started it first. Obito muttered. But Kumi didn't want to hear the explanation. That won't work either. After all, fighting is wrong, understand? Obito lowered his head and said nothing. Then, he quietly looked to the side. Iki was sitting obediently on a chair, and a girl was applying medicine on his hand. It shouldn't be a big deal, Iki-kun. Well, thank you, Lin. Iki leaned his head against the wall intentionally. He didn't want people to see the small curly hair on the back of his head. You're welcome, Iki-kun. The little girl smiled slightly, and Iki felt a little embarrassed. Obito, who saw this scene, sighed. Iki, you seem to be very popular with girls. Warm reminder, if you can't find the book title, you can try searching the author. Maybe he just changed his name. Chapter 11. Two bosses talking late at night. When Iki and Obito left the Konoha hospital, they saw several ninjas, which made them feel a little strange. The ninjas were fine, but the key was that these ninjas were carrying injured kids on their bodies. The one with the most serious injuries had a burnt upper body and a weak breath, as if he had been attacked. It was Uchiha Kitakiji's cousin. Obito was so panicked that he couldn't move. Iki, is it okay for us to do that? What can happen? If your fireball can be released, they will be even worse than this. We are just defending. This is a fact that cannot be changed, even if the Hokage comes. Iki said indifferently. After all, Obito is still a child now, and he is even kind-hearted by nature. He is completely different from the masked man who later wreaked havoc on the ninja world. As for Iki, although he is still somewhat affected by his past life's personality, he had let it go when Obito was beaten into a pig's head. This is Konoha. This is the ninja world. It's okay to send someone to the hospital after a fight, but if you are weak, you will die. This may be a bit exaggerated, but this is the fact. Wasn't his predecessor just beaten up so that he could travel through time? Not to mention becoming a ninja, except for Konoha, facing the ninjas from other villages. The weak really don't deserve to live. But Iki was also happy at that time. The use of hydrogen release has broken through a new level and entered a new chapter. Yang release plus water release plus lightning release is feasible, and the effect is quite good. Not only has the power not been compromised, but the reaction speed has been much faster. Iki estimates that, if he can become more proficient, he can release hydrogen release even faster in the future. This is thanks to his practice of Rasengan. Iki has even considered whether he can perform the two techniques at the same time to further reduce the time. Alas. Obito suddenly sighed at this time, interrupting Iki's thinking. I actually succeeded at noon today, but when I was about to beat them, I failed again. Obito looked melancholy. What exactly is the problem? It should be that there is not enough chakra. Iki spread his hands. I also did not have enough chakra today, otherwise I could have spun out the Rasengan. But you still use that jutsu, Iki. By the way, what is the name of your jutsu? That's not the point, Obito. Iki suddenly became serious, and Obito was stunned by this sudden seriousness. We are too weak now, whether it is ninjutsu or taijutsu. The enemies in the future will only become stronger and stronger. If we continue like this, it will be dangerous. What happened today reminded Iki. In the past, he believed in the way of ruling the world with a pen, but now it seems that things are not that simple. Hydrogen release is very powerful, but if there is no chakra released, then no matter how powerful the ninjutsu is, it is useless. He decided to start a plan to strengthen his body. It is time to start the 8 gates of ninjutsu. Indeed. Obito was rarely serious. Today's events obviously made him feel deeply. As far as I know, Uchiha Kitakage has more than one cousin. His grandfather is the great elder of Uchiha, and the power of the clan is huge. I estimate that there must be more than 10 cousins alone. Yingshu's face darkened when he heard this. Oh, Obito's brain probably can't think that far. But Obito was able to be serious, and his goal was achieved. So, we have to practice hard, Obito. Iki paused, his expression became mysterious. I have a plan. The younger generation today is really amazing. If you hadn't seen it with your own eyes, I would have thought it was the rebellious behavior of the enemy village ninja. Who said it wasn't? It was late at night, in the only house in the Hatake clan. Two big men of Konoha were talking in the living room, and a little boy was eavesdropping at the side door. He didn't know that he had been discovered, and he listened with relish. Speaking of which, it was originally a fight between children, and both sides had members of the Uchiha clan. It was just a little too much. Warm reminder, this site uses cookie technology to save your reading history and bookshelf, so clearing browser cookie data, reinstalling the browser and other operations will cause your reading progress to disappear. It is recommended to occasionally take a screenshot and save the bookshelf in case you can't find the novel you are reading. Orochimaru said with a smile. The Tsukumo in front of him is his senior and a good friend. He is one of the few ninjas that Orochimaru admires. It was a little too much. Tsukumo, the Hokage and the captain of the Konoha Ranbu, who is known as the Konoha Fang in the ninja world, is smiling bitterly at this moment. You know, half of those Uchiha children haven't been discharged from the hospital yet. They have abrasions, fractures, and the most serious second-degree burns, and they are still being rescued. Hatake Tsukumo opened his mouth to say something, but seeing Orochimaru's half smile, he suppressed his words. He smiled bitterly. That's right, you were the one who sent the person to the hospital, and you were the first one to discover him. Don't worry too much, Tsukumo-kun. Orochimaru waved his hand and said, "For Tsunade, those injuries are nothing." Nigga was unhappy. You make it sound simple. Uchiha Wakaha is the most promising descendant of the Uchiha Great Elder. Being beaten and sent to the hospital, how can it be? Halfway through his words, Nigga suddenly thought of something. By the way, what happened at the scene? If I remember correctly, Uchiha Wakaha is a genin, right? Not only a genin, but also the top ninja of the previous ninja academy. He has good qualifications, but his character is a little worse. Orochimaru said slowly. Tsukumo immediately took a deep breath. Two little guys, who haven't even finished their first grade, can beat a genin into the hospital? And they use the Uchiha's most proficient fire escape? Question mark? This is too unbelievable. But just when Kakashi was wondering, a strange sound from the side door of the living room caught the attention of the two. The two big guys smiled at each other. Kakashi, you should go to bed at this time. Kakashi's eyes relaxed and said with some pampering. Sure enough, the next moment, Kakashi, who was wearing pajamas and a mask, appeared and bowed to the two people in the living room. Okay, my dear, good evening, Lord Orochimaru. Orochimaru nodded slightly. Kakashi hurried upstairs, his eyes full of confusion. The two guys that Lord Ishimaru and Lord Orochimaru were talking about, couldn't they be those two guys? Early the next morning, on the path to the Ninja Academy, the two boys stopped halfway, and Obito's expression was a little nervous. Iki, are we really okay like this? It's not a big problem, it's just a shadow clone. I'm already very familiar with it. But the teacher hasn't taught this lesson yet, and hasn't even taught the three-body technique. When did you learn the shadow clone? I learned it from Nurse Kumi at Konoha Hospital a few days ago. Don't talk, Obito. I need to concentrate. Iki's face was full of sternness. He went to Konoha Hospital, not only to learn the palm immortal technique. Miss Kumi is kind and kind-hearted. After Nono agreed to let him learn, she wanted to teach Iki everything. The price is that his hairstyle is a standard Shota template, and he has to look like a chicken nest all day long. As for the shadow clone, according to Kumi, Konoha Hospital sometimes encounters very busy situations. In order to avoid missing the treatment time, every nurse will use the shadow clone to operate at full capacity. Iki held his breath and concentrated. After a simple hand seal, two figures suddenly appeared beside him. 3 Iki appeared on the field at once. If it were the peaceful era of Minato, this skill would have been completed. But Iki's work has to continue. One of the Iki clones made a seal again, and with another poof, there were 2 Obitos and 2 Ikis on the field. The clones walked towards the 2 people, and said in the same voice, "Give me the school bag." Damn. Obito was shocked. He gave the school bag to himself, and then looked at Iki. When did you learn it? Teach me. I just learned it a few days ago. You master the great fireball first, and I will teach you. Iki rolled his eyes. He didn't study the 3-body technique seriously, so it's not perfect yet. He couldn't imitate Obito's voice, but it seemed that it would last for a long time. He just needed to release enough chakra. He also experimented with it last night, and the chakra of 2 people lasted for a whole night without any problem. Warm reminder, to make it easier for everyone to choose books, the ranking page of the website has been optimized. You can try it. Chapter 12 Trouble Again. Kakashi was in a bad mood today. He didn't even hear the teacher's roll call. Sitting in the front row of the class, this kind of thing rarely happens. What did those 2 guys do? To make both the father-in-law and Orochimaru praise them endlessly? Kakashi couldn't imagine that those 2 losers who dared to use detonating tags in a fight would actually get the recognition of the 2 big guys. Yes, in Kakashi's eyes, aren't Obito and Iki losers? One loses in 2 subjects and has never lasted more than 10 moves in a fight. One loses in a single subject, got full marks in theory, but can't even throw a shuriken accurately. Such a person is worthy of being looked at by the father-in-law? What Kakashi didn't know was that he heard some things just because he could hear them. Those contents were mixed with a bit of the old mother's bad taste to motivate the arrogant son or something. The things he didn't hear, in fact, would only shock him more. Kakashi secretly glanced at the position behind him. Today was a little abnormal. In the past, Obito would sleep in the back, and the guy named Iki would listen carefully. But today, the 2 of them were actually listening attentively together. Did Obito take the wrong medicine? This thought immediately popped up in Kakashi's mind. Today's talk was about the history of the ninja world. Not to mention Obito, he would either be distracted or very sleepy. But Obito was able to sit upright, and it seemed that he was taking notes. Kakashi suddenly discovered something and narrowed his eyes. These 2 guys are not right. With Kakashi's observation skills, he can still see some clues. The expressions and movements of the 2 people are a bit similar today. Even the word similar is not quite appropriate. Everything about the 2 people is basically the same. One moment they are flipping through the textbook, the next moment they are taking notes. Kakashi observed carefully, and he suspected that what they wrote might be the same. Massacre. Kakashi's eyes suddenly widened. He seemed to know what the 2 were doing. Konoha, training ground number 3. There were quite a few people who came to practice in the morning, but Iki and Obito still found a secluded place. Next to them was a ninja wearing a green vest, about 20 years old, who was practicing earth escape. Earth escape, earth flow wall. The ninja growled, pressed his hands on the ground, and a large earth wall rose up. Seeing this, Obito's blood was boiling. Earth escape, so damn cool. His name contained the word earth, and he had imagined more than once that he would use a powerful earth escape to dominate the ninja school. Of course, he would rather change his name to Dehuo because he thought the Great Fireball was also cool. Iki wanted to complain, but he didn't know where to start. Earth flow wall is just the most common and basic ninjutsu of earth escape, which plays a defensive role. When Obito becomes proficient in the Great Fireball and sees those dog-headed guys during the battle against Kakashi, he probably won't feel so cool anymore. You should focus on practicing your Great Fireball. I'll refine my chakra for a while, and we'll practice together later. Iki told him his plan. 2 clone techniques, plus a transformation technique, have consumed half of his chakra. He is still young, and he will feel tired when his chakra is consumed by about 70%, which makes it unsuitable for practice. Okay. Obito's eyes lit up when he heard that, and then he looked at Iki with some ill intentions. There are some things that I don't know if I should say or not. Although you and I are brothers, there are some things that IQ can't make up for. Huh. Why do I feel something is wrong? Obito immediately mobilized his chakra with great enthusiasm, and Iki sat cross-legged on the ground and recovered. Speaking of which, Iki also gradually felt that he was different. If he took Obito as a template, he must be a genius. Even if Obito's title of last place was due to his eternal failure in challenging Kakashi, his total chakra amount, not to say outrageous, but it is still more than Obito's, about half more. Warm reminder, there are functions such as switch between simplified and traditional Chinese, adjust font size, and reading background color in the upper right corner of the page. Obito is not short of blue monsters. Although the Uchiha bloodline has little to do with the total chakra amount, it does add some bonus. Don't you see that the other kids can't even withstand one move from Kakashi? Before Kakashi graduated, Obito could still put in some impressive performances occasionally. Another issue is the chakra manipulation. Iki feels that he may have been too pessimistic before. Not having a bloodline is not necessarily a bad thing. Controlling the ball with both hands and with the back of the hand, Iki has never seen such a situation in anime. To be more objective, it took him less than 2 weeks to master the Rasengan. Although Jiraiya learned it in 3 days, he is one of the Sennin after all. He has been on the battlefield, carried a gun, shed blood, and fought in battles. He has more experience. If you count it up, the level of sophistication of his chakra control is already one of the top 4 of Jiraiya. Therefore, Iki is still quite confident now. The little genius of Konoha isn't he the one you're talking about? But at this time, fire style, great fireball technique. The scorching waves of fire interrupted Iju's self-intoxication. Iju was stunned for a moment, turned his head and looked, but saw Obito's smug expression. I said it yesterday. I'm just not in good condition, otherwise those Uchiha, Master Obito, wouldn't take them seriously. Obito said with gauze still stuck to the corner of his eye. Iju curled his lips. He really should have let Kumi treat Obito 3 times. This is a typical case of forgetting the pain after the wound has healed. I still have more than half of my chakra, and your chakra is estimated to have recovered almost. Now, you and I can have a fair fight, right? Obito raised his eyebrows and said smugly. Iki was silent for a moment, then stood up. Okay then. Obito immediately got ready. Iki rubbed out a Rasengan with one hand. Come on. Obito, who was thinking about how to press Iki to the ground, was stunned. Fuck. You cheated, Iki. Can you use Rasengan in a fight? Do you think that Uchiha will reason with you? Iki said calmly. He actually wanted to tell Obito a truth. The ninja world is big, not just Konoha and Uchiha. The outside world is more exciting and more dangerous, especially the other old Uchiha Otaku, who is now estimated to have set his sights on him. But if your Rasengan gets it, I'm afraid. Obito hesitated. It's just a repair. There's no need to be so cruel, right? You think that Uchiha gang? That's true. Let me try the power first. Iki didn't feel very good either. He wanted Obito to become stronger, not disabled. The two of them immediately came to a big tree, which was as thick as an adult, with lush branches and leaves. It was a good place to cool off in the summer. Iki hesitated for a moment, and suddenly pressed the Rasengan in his hand upwards. The next moment, boom, crack. A big hole was hit in the tree, and the fragile branches could not bear the weight, and the upper half of the tree fell down. Damn. Run. The two ran away and narrowly avoided the fallen half of the tree. Obito looked at the mess and swallowed hard. Iju. Is this the technique that the ninja taught us? Iju nodded. It was also his first time to use it. After the last practice, he ran to the Konoha hospital. Hey, little brat over there. What are you doing? At this time, a big man rushed over. His speed was incredibly fast. He should be the manager of the training ground. Judging from his speed and his powerful roar, he probably had a lot of stories when he was young. But the two of them were not curious. They looked at each other and ran away again without saying a word. In this matter, the tacit understanding between the two was surprisingly high. However, your big man is your big man after all. With just a flash of body movement, the two little brats were caught up immediately. The old man picked up one of them with each hand, and the two brats, who were full of enthusiasm just now, shut themselves up on the spot. Damn it, I must master this instant body movement technique. I will never let the enemy hold my head against me. Yingshu roared in his heart. What are you doing instead of going to school? The old man glanced at the broken tree next to him. His eyes were a little surprised, and he felt that it looked familiar. He was surprised because two little brats could actually break such a big tree. He looked familiar because, what a sin. My dear, I'm so sorry. The old man threw the two little brats to the ground, looked at the beloved tree, and burst into tears. Yingshu and Obito? Question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark question mark. Friendly reminder, there are functions such as switch between simplified and traditional Chinese, adjust font size, reading background color in the upper right corner of the page. Chapter 13, Being Scammed. The old man beat his chest and stamped his feet, crying loudly, which made Obito and Iki feel guilty. Iki began to imagine what kind of touching love story was behind this tree that could make the old man so sad. That year, he was 18. That year, she was also 18. Iki was a little panicked. To be honest, he was not so panicked, even when he blew up his cousin Uchiha Kitakayu yesterday. Iki, what should we do now? Uchiha 100,000 what to do? Obito is online. Yingshu was also in a dilemma. What can I do? I have to admit my mistakes. Stand at attention when I get beaten. Just wait. After hearing this, Obito sighed with a sad face, fumbled in his pocket, took out a 10-ounce bill, and handed it to Yingshu. This is my living expenses for this month. I don't know if it's enough to pay for it. Alas. Yingshu took the money, was stunned for a moment, and then his expression became complicated. This is definitely not about money, otherwise the old man would not have cried so miserably. This tree might have been planted by the old man and his wife when he was young. Now that his wife is gone, he can only keep a memory. Looking at the old man who was still crying, Yingshu sighed. There is no way it can only be like this. Although he felt bad, he is still a child after all, at least in the eyes of others. Children have their own unique way of dealing with things, and their own aura. Yingshu immediately took out a few bills from his pocket. It seems that the ninja who gave him living expenses some time ago gave him more, twice as much. His living expenses this month are more than Obito, who has a complete ninja industry chain family behind him. It is a full 1 teal and 10 ryo, and Obito's is exactly 2 teals. Grandpa, we didn't mean it. This is the money we saved for a long time. We are giving it to you as compensation. Don't be sad. Yingshu tried his best to make his voice full of childishness, just to find an innocent feeling. You know what? He really cares. The old man stopped crying, wiped his tears, and took the money sadly. My dear. In Yingshu's somewhat surprised expression, the old man quickly clicked the money and stuffed it into his arms. The smoothness of the movement and the natural expression made Yingshu wonder if he was being scammed. However, Yingshu inadvertently caught a glimpse of the fishing net underwear under the old man's coat and the Konoha forehead protector hanging around his waist. This proves the old man's identity as a ninja. He should not be a liar. Yingshu sighed in his heart. In Konoha, breaking a tree is considered normal. As the largest ninja village in the ninja world, Konoha is very rich and has everything, especially trees. He can break a tree with the Rasengan, which should be a cause for celebration. If Danzo Shimura or Hiruzen Sarutobi saw this, they would probably train him as a genius on the spot. Grandpa? Seeing that the old man finally recovered, Yingshu called out tentatively. As a result, he was met with the old man's vigilant gaze. What's the matter? Do you think you can get rid of me for 2010 teals? Do you know the origin of this tree? Damn little brat. Yingshu didn't know how to respond. Could it be that his baby voice was ineffective? Not really. He is less than 6 years old, and he should not have reached the voice change period. Anyway, call your 2 parents over. This matter is not over. The old man glanced at Yingshu, then at Obito. His eyes lingered on the Uchiha fan on Obito's collar for a moment, and a flash of disgust flashed across his eyes. It's still an Uchiha brat, just right. Uchiha is not short of money. Go tell your clan leader. I'll be waiting here. The old man was obviously in high spirits. Yingshu's brows gradually wrinkled. He felt like he was really being scammed. And Obito, after hearing that he was going to call the clan leader, was immediately unhappy. You can't be a tree. You are just looking for trouble. Obito's temper also came up, and he shouted with a hoarse voice and exaggerated expression. Yingshu was shocked, and thought to himself that it was not good. Scamming is scamming, but the old man's strength is there. Yingshu wanted to stop Obito, but it was too late. What I'm looking for is you, Uchiha. Konoha has been turned into a turmoil by you, Uchiha. Even a little kid dares to talk nonsense to me. Believe it or not, I will beat you so badly that even your grandmother won't recognize you. Fuck. Do you think I'm afraid of you, old man? Ugh. Iki, what are you doing? Warm reminder, if you can't find the book title by searching, you can try searching the author. Maybe he just changed his name. Iki finally grabbed Obito, and while trying to calm this stubborn guy with his eyes, he held Obito's head, and they bowed deeply to the old man together. "I'm sorry, old man. This is indeed our fault. So, you name a price and we'll go back and make some money." Yingshu was very serious and looked at Obito seriously. "Uchiha Kitakage, calm down. Have you forgotten what our teacher taught us? If you make a mistake, you must have the courage to admit it. Do you understand?" Obito was stunned by what Yingshu said, but out of trust, he nodded reluctantly. "Humph, you have some sense, kid. It's a pity that you mixed with the Uchiha people." The old man snorted and waved his hand at the two of them. "Hurry up and bring the head of the family here. Uchiha Kitakage, I remember your name. I'll give you 1 hour. If I can't see your head of the family, I'll go to the Konoha guard." "That's right. I also want to see what kind of person the current head of the Uchiha clan is." Yingshu was shocked. What is the origin of this old man? From the tone, he seems to be a bit arrogant. "We can't care too much about it now. We have to run." The two of them immediately ran away, fearing that they would be dragged back if they were a step slower. Yingshu was a little nervous. This old man must have a great background. He searched his memory, but he couldn't remember any big shot of this age in this period. A ninja who looks older than Sarutobi Hiruzen and hates Uchiha very much. Oh my god, it can't be. Iki's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad feeling. PFFT. You are really something, Iki. At this time, Obito couldn't hold it back anymore, and said with a big laugh, "This time, Uchiha Kitakage will probably die without knowing how he died." Haha. But soon, Obito's expression became stiff, and so did Iki. The two only felt a gust of wind blowing past, and the next moment, the familiar feeling of weightlessness appeared, and the two were lifted up by the collar again. No need to think, it was that old man again. "Do you two think that I, an old man, am so easy to fool?" Bang. The two were thrown to the ground heavily. The force was not great, but the body was not small. The two were not injured, but the body was grimacing in pain. Yingshu suddenly felt a wave of other information in his mind. His clones were all knocked down by the old man. "It's over." Yingshu was shocked, but Obito on the side couldn't control himself. "Yingshu, you go. I'll stop this hateful old man." Yingshu always felt that he had heard this line before, as if Obito had the same reaction when he met Minato last time. It should be said that Obito is a person who can get along, and he really goes forward when there is something going on. Yingshu didn't care so much at the moment. "You definitely can't beat him alone. I'll help you." The identity of this old man is not important for the time being. Yes. It doesn't matter anymore. Yingshu was a little bit drunk at the moment. He was lifted up like a chicken twice in a row, which was very embarrassing. So, 2 minutes later, the empty grassland was full of vitality, but there were two little heads stuck in the ground. They were not special species of plants, but two young boys who had the courage to resist. "Old man, if you have the guts, let me out. Master Obito's fireball will teach you a lesson in no time." Obito's face turned red, and he roared madly. The old man had a mocking look on his face, and did not answer. Instead, he sat aside, and took out a small wine bottle, and drank it happily. This scene made Obito even more furious. His head arched forward desperately, and he wished he could jump out of the soil directly. As for Yingshu, his eyes were a little shocked. After a brief moment of excitement, he calmed down, and the identity of the old man in front of him was about to be revealed. At this time, at this age, he hated Uchiha, had a special liking for trees, and gave them a strong emotional value. Everything pointed to one direction, a surname that was gradually forgotten in Konoha. Senju. Warm reminder, in order to facilitate everyone's book selection, the ranking page of the website has been optimized. You can try it. Chapter 14. The Golden Finger arrives. Mentioning the Senju clan, all Iki can think of is the wood release of the Great Pillar and the Great. The Senju clan was once very glorious. Together with the Uchiha, they founded Konoha, and the entire ninja world was vying to emulate them. The wood release of the Great Pillar and the sea release of Tobirama once suppressed the ninja world for many years. Tobirama may not have such strong ruling power, but after all, he allowed Konoha to develop steadily for more than 10 years. This laid the foundation for Konoha's current status as the strongest ninja village. However, since the Second Ninja World War, the Senju clan has gradually faded out of people's sight. Iki has heard many speculations in his previous life. Some say that they have changed their names and returned to the mountains. There are also claims that they all died in battle, or that there were problems with the continuation of their offspring, so they gradually faded from Konoha and disappeared from the ninja world. But no matter what, the strength of the Senju clan is there. The old man in front of him looks much older than Sarutobi Hiruzen. Sarutobi Hiruzen at the beginning of Shippuden looked like this. My goodness, if this old man is really a member of the Senju clan, he must be from the same era as Senju Tobirama, right? Yingshu was secretly shocked. Although there is no clear evidence to prove that this old man is a member of the Senju clan. First, there is no clan emblem, and second, there is no witness. But Yingshu is still very determined in his heart. There is no other reason, just relying on the old man's strength, relying on the old man's hatred for Uchiha. Boy, are you brave? You lied to an old man with your eyes open. You must have done this a lot in your life, right? The old man ignored Obito's almost ferocious expression and roar, and looked at Yingshu with interest. Yingshu remained silent. The child's halo is useless against the old man, and he can't beat him by force. Now he can't think of any way to get out of it. Huh. You are quite tough. Weren't you quite polite just now? You paid money and apologized. Haha, I almost believed it. The old man saw that Yingshu didn't react, but he became interested. What's your name? Where are your parents? Iki, the handsome Ing, the big tree, no last name, his parents are dead. Iki answered straightforwardly. Iki is a cunning kid, quite suitable to be a ninja. The old man pondered for a moment, took back the wine pot, came in front of Iki, and squatted down. Want to leave? The old man asked. The strong smell of alcohol splashed on Iki's face. Iki frowned, but before he could answer, Obito on the side started yelling. Stinky old man, let your master Obito out quickly. Come to me if you have any problems. I see that Master Obito will. Ugh. The soil with grass blocked Obito's mouth, leaving only his nose open for breathing. Obito's roar turned into a muffled groan, and he was completely helpless and furious. The old man just raised his finger, and it was obvious that his chakra was still on the ground. This skill made Yingshu secretly envious. His hydrogen escape consumes chakra on the one hand, and chakra control on the other. The old man in front of him has not yet shown his chakra amount, but with this hand of chakra control, Yingshu is ashamed of himself. I'm asking you, kid, do you want to leave? The old man asked again. Yingshu stared into the old man's eyes. He saw amusement and bad taste, and it was obvious that he had no good intentions. But Yingshu still nodded. Yes, that's easy. The old man immediately pointed to the broken tree not far away, which was the tree of love that Yingshu blew down with a Rasengan. You broke my tree, so I won't let you pay for it. Just come here every day to prune the tree, water it, and apply fertilizer. That's your compensation. I won't let you skip classes either. Just come here after school and work until sunset to complete the tasks I give you. How about that? Yingshu was stunned when he heard this. This plot, he was familiar with it. The hermit master secretly instructed and taught magical skills in the name of beating. This is a true adventure. Could it be that my golden finger appeared? Question mark? Grandpa? Yingshu was thinking wildly in his mind, while Obito beside him had already started roaring. Woo 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 woo. Okay, I promise you, Grandpa. Yingshu quickly agreed to the old man, and Obito beside him stopped roaring immediately, looking at Yingshu with red eyes, full of disbelief. It seemed to say, Yingshu, think twice. And when Yingshu just agreed, he heard the old man snap his fingers, and the grass that bound the two of them suddenly opened to both sides by itself. Warm reminder, there are functions such as switch between simplified and traditional Chinese, adjust font size, and reading background color in the upper right corner of the page. Yingshu and Obito looked at each other, and quickly jumped out. When the two looked at the old man again, the old man only left them with his back. You have the chakra marker left on you. Even if you run away from Konoha, I can catch you back in a minute. So, don't have any bad thoughts. Come here on time every day, Otherwise I will bury you with my tree for 7 days and 7 nights. The old man did not forget to threaten arrogantly before leaving. If it had been before, Obito would have raised his fist and rushed forward. The last person who dared to threaten his two brothers is still lying in the Konoha hospital. But after being beaten up by the old man, especially after seeing that Iki was willing to compromise just to exchange for the opportunity for the two of them to leave, Obito no longer cared about anything else. He clenched his fists tightly and looked at Iki with red eyes. Don't worry, Iki, I will definitely help you work together. Iki glanced at Obito unhappily. He even suspected that if Obito didn't have the Uchiha fan on him, the old man probably wouldn't have made things so difficult for them. A broken tree, and that poor acting skills. Iki was stunned, and he suddenly felt like he was trapped. The problem went back to the starting point. If it was just a tree, it wouldn't be that. Not to mention that there are so many trees here. Konoha's greening is first class in the ninja world. He always felt that the old man came for him from the beginning. Could it be that he was attracted by his strong ninja talent? Forget it. Yingshu sighed and shook his head. Compared to this strange old man, there is a more serious problem waiting for him to solve. His clone is gone. Obito, you skipped class before. How did the teacher punish you that time? Yingshu suddenly asked. Obito was stunned for a moment, recalled for a moment, and said, strictly speaking, I overslept that time. It was noon when I woke up. It was not considered skipping class, but the teacher still punished me to stand for a week. What's wrong? Nothing. Yingshu sighed again. I was just thinking, if I tell the teacher that the clone knocked us out and went to class by ourselves, how long will we be punished to stand? Yingshu and Obito hurried and finally got back to school before noon. The two of them sneaked in from the window of the classroom. Teacher Guante was teaching the class and the students were drowsy. It seemed that everything was normal, but Obito's heart sank. It's over, Iki. What should I do now? Oh my god, will they call the parents? My grandma will be very angry if she finds out. Obito is fearless, but like all elementary school students, calling the parents has always been his weakness. This wave blames me, Obito. Iki also sighed. Who knows if I can kill a weird old man who looks like a senju when I sneak out to repair it. Now it's good. Standing in punishment is not a big deal, and he is not afraid of being called the parents. But if he is kept after school, he will probably be finished. That old man will definitely not be happy. What? At this time, Obito next to him discovered something, secretly screamed, and nudged Yingshu. Yingshu, look at those two people. Why do they look like you and me? What? Yingshu also looked over, his eyes suddenly widened. The people sitting in their seats were actually them. What's going on? Yingshu was also confused. He clearly felt that his clone disappeared, and even everything the clone experienced came back to his mind. He didn't understand anything the teacher said. At this time, Yingshu noticed a gaze from the front row of the class, looking at them secretly and directly. It was Kakashi. Yingshu seemed to understand something, but he was even more puzzled in his heart. Those two clones were probably created by Kakashi. Now the problem is, he and Kakashi don't get along well, and Kakashi even warned him last time. Needless to say, Obito, the two of them are fighting for the finale. Kakashi would actually help cover up. Iki was a little confused. Today is a really strange day. Warm reminder, there are functions such as switch between simplified and traditional Chinese, adjust font size, and reading background color in the upper right corner of the page. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15. I'll really blow your dog head off. Ding-a-ling, the school bell rang. It was lunchtime. Iki and Obito came to the rooftop of the teaching building, and Kakashi had been waiting for them for a long time. Thank you. Iki thanked him, showing traditional virtues. Obito tilted his head to one side, looking arrogant. No need. Kakashi said coolly, and the dead fish eyes that looked at the two of them also had a different light today. A serious light. I heard that the two of you defeated a ninja, and he was hospitalized. Iki was startled, and Obito turned his head to look over. It seemed that neither of them expected Kakashi to say this. In fact, Yingshu wanted to say in a cool way, well, just teach him a lesson. But at this moment, the scene of the two of them being pressed into the ground by the weird old man appeared in his mind again. Yingshu's face darkened, and he just nodded gently. Yes. What's wrong? Chief student. This answer was somewhat personal. Kakashi's face suddenly sank when he heard it. Sure enough, this guy's hiding his strength. Is he mocking my position as the chief student? Question mark? Did that adult value this person? Is there something special about him? At this moment, many thoughts popped up in Kakashi's mind. But all these thoughts finally turned into a sentence. If that's the case. Kakashi's eyes turned cold. Then fight me. I want to know, to what extent have you hidden your strength? Kakashi burst out with a strong desire to fight. Yingshu saw it, but before he could make any move, Obito on the side had already entered the fighting mode. Come on. I'm afraid of you. In a fight, Obito never gives up and never misses. Not to mention that he was already angry with that weird old man. Obito also perfectly used the great fireball this morning. At the moment, he has plenty of chakra and a high desire to fight, especially when fighting against Kakashi. Obito is full of confidence. I won't fight a useless battle with my defeated general. Unexpectedly, Kakashi frowned and rejected Obito's challenge. He pointed at Iki, still with dead fish eyes, but like a sharp compass, seemingly dull, but actually sharp. Damn. What do you mean? Obito was displeased on the spot, but Iki stopped him. No, Obito. Iki looked at Kakashi indifferently. Actually, I have also wanted to fight with this so-called top student for a long time. But, are you sure you want to fight here? Kakashi didn't care, but said, no, I will end the battle in the shortest time. Bullshit. Iki curled his lips and raised his thumb behind his back. You don't care, you are aloof, but if the teacher finds out that we are talking, we will be punished. You are the top student in the class and the son of White Fang, but I'm different from Obito. We don't have the title of top student, nor do we have a Superman father like White Fang to back us up. If we are punished for talking, it will be a big loss. Iki said a lot, and Obito was stunned. He always felt that Iki was scolding him, but he had no evidence. Kakashi's eyes became more and more hostile. So what do you say we should do? Kakashi said coldly, find a suitable place for the battle, or pick a time. I'll listen to you. Kakashi was anxious. He was really anxious. Kakashi seemed heartless, but he actually had a strong sense of self-esteem. He put on a mask to cover his handsome face, and he kept covering it until Naruto, just because his dad said that the beauty mole on the corner of his mouth was cute. After White Fang's death, although Kakashi's dead fish eyes became more dull, his bottom line became clearer. It's not that troublesome. Yingshu spread his hands, but his eyes narrowed slightly. I have a better and more elegant way to determine victory or defeat. Iki also wanted to fight Kakashi, but it was not rational. The two of them were not on the same path. Kakashi's future was not discussed, but for now he was still focusing on White Fang's swordsmanship and physical skills. It was like taking the warrior plus assassin route, and these happened to be Iki's shortcomings. He did have experience fighting with Uchiha brats, but those experiences were not enough, otherwise Obito would not be the last one. Now Iki, although he has mastered close combat weapons such as the Rasengan, strictly speaking, he is just a mage. Warm reminder, there are functions such as switch between simplified and traditional Chinese, adjust font size, and reading background color in the upper right corner of the page. Well, a half-baked wizard. After all, the Rasengan was developed by Minato to increase the lethality of the Flying Thunder God tactic. In this case, it is really irrational to compete with Kakashi, who was basically a pig's foot template in childhood. Being irrational is one time, and being daring is another time. Iki has no other advantages, but he has the good qualities of being calm and daring to fight. Fear? There is no such thing. As a ninja, you must know some ninjutsu, right, Kakashi? Yingshu said calmly, although you didn't know any when you fought with Obito. I saw it a long time ago. How did he know that? Question mark? Am I so good at hiding? Kakashi was surprised, but his face remained calm. This might be one of the advantages of wearing a mask. Yes, what's wrong? That's easy. Yingshu raised his eyebrows and said, show me your best ninjutsu. As long as you can withstand my attack, you win. If the teacher asks, we were just sparring. We didn't use Kyune, and Obito can also testify. How about it? To be honest, Kakashi was hesitant at first. He always felt something was wrong. Why did he have to take the hit from Iki when he was the one challenging him? But it didn't matter. Although he didn't know many ninjutsu, they were all very solid. Kakashi had the confidence to steadily block the ninjutsu attack from Iki. It should be a fire escape. First it was Uchiha Kitakage, and then it was that ninja. Iki should be good at fire escape. Kakashi thought quickly in his mind. In that case, I'll use this move. Are you ready? Iki asked calmly. Kakashi nodded. Let's seal the hand. Kakashi understood the ninjutsu battle, the speed of the seal, the quality of the ninjutsu, and the artistic aura of the ninjutsu. The last one is purely a personal preference. Kakashi said, seal. No way. He had to seal, and even had the energy to pretend. You seal first. I'm afraid that once I make a move, you won't have a chance to resist. What a big tone. Kakashi's eyes turned cold. Why didn't he realize that this guy was so aggressive before? Forget it. Kakashi took a deep breath and calmed down his heart. He sealed with both hands, and the movement was so fluent and solid, which was many times more pleasing to the eye than Obito's great fireball seal. Then, Kakashi pressed his hands on the ground, earth style, earth flow wall. A dog-headed earth wall rose from the ground. Obito! Exclamation mark. At this moment, Obito's disgust with earth escape reached its peak. Yo. Iki raised his eyebrows. It was also the first time he saw Kakashi's dog-head earth flow wall in person. Not to mention, it was quite artistic, and it felt like this ninjutsu was endowed with a soul. It's your turn. Kakashi shouted coldly. And Iki, he walked forward slowly, without any hand seals, or even any extra movements. He came to the earth wall, and knocked on the cute dog head with his hand. Yo, it's still quite hard. Iki sighed slightly. Then, chakra gushed out from the palm of his hand. How shameless. Yingshu rolled out the Rasengan in 3 seconds, and then smashed it directly at the dog head on Kakashi's earth wall. Bang. The cute dog head was smashed to pieces on the spot, and a big hole was smashed in the earth wall. Really smash your dog head. Kakashi stood there in a daze behind the earth wall. The manic chakra was only a few inches away from him. Even with the earth wall blocking it, the power could still be felt clearly. If this move hit him, I'm afraid Minato never thought that Yingshu could master the Rasengan so quickly. Otherwise, he would never teach it to the two boys. In fact, Minato knew in his heart that, although this technique seemed simple, it would take some effort to master it. And this was for ordinary ninjas with a certain chakra foundation. But what he didn't know was that some people were not ninjas, but they were not ordinary. Rounding off, Iki was a blood successor who survived the development. It doesn't matter if there is blood or not, as long as he is eliminated, that's 100%. Warm reminder, the problem of logged-in users saving bookshelves across devices has been corrected. If you still can't save, please remember the contents of the bookshelf first, clear the cookies of the browser, and then log in again, and add it to the bookshelf. Chapter 16 Damn it. This is a ninjutsu. After being tricked by Iki, Kakashi really became obedient. When the two of them hurried out of the classroom after school, Kakashi didn't even say hello when he passed by them. After leaving the school, they went straight to the number 3 training ground. Although Obito had been persuading Iki not to go all afternoon, and that they could ask Minato for help if they really couldn't, Iki still refused. The reason was, if you do something wrong, you have to pay the price. Obito couldn't resist, and had to follow. The two of them quickly arrived at the place, where the tree was blown up in the morning, and the half-broken tree didn't even move. This made Iki more and more certain. The old man was coming for him. Damn, Yingshu. We seem to have been fooled. Even Obito noticed something was wrong. If they really wanted to destroy the tree, could the corpse just be left there? You're here quite early. I guess you know what's going on. At this time, not far away, the old man appeared with a drunken step. The pungent smell of alcohol on the old man could be smelled from a long distance away. It was obvious that he drank a lot. Yingshu narrowed his eyes. he noticed that the old man had changed his clothes. The style was similar, and it looked quite shabby, giving people a very sloppy feeling. But there was a sense of retro deja vu, which was very different from the clothes people wear nowadays. What do you need us to do? Although the old man showed that he hated Uchiha very much, Iki still brought Obito here. Firstly, he wanted to help Obito improve. Secondly, if he guessed wrong, Obito could still help with the work. This guy doesn't have much chakra, but his physical strength is really good. It feels like he has been injected with chicken blood every day. The old man gulped down the wine, and while drinking, one hand pointed to the half-broken tree on the ground. Let's start with this tree. It's not a good place here. Get rid of it before sunset. The farther the better. Well, if you don't know where to get it, just send it to the Konoha guard department. It's up to you. Just don't let me see it. This is your mission today. Iki was stunned. Do you want him to deal with the tree? My goodness, this is a solid tree. That is half the thickness of an adult. He and Obito together don't even weigh 1/10 of the tree. Damn. You're just trying to mess with us. Obito was anxious. How could he carry the tree to the Konoha guard before sunset? Besides, why is it the Konoha guard? Not only is it extremely far from here, but if the key tribe members ask about it. Stop talking, Obito. Yingshu stopped Obito and squinted at the old man in front of him. Any other requests, Grandpa? Anywhere is fine. Now it was the old man's turn to be stunned. He stopped drinking and stared at the little guy in front of him, trying to see what was hidden in his eyes. But soon he pretended to be disgusted and waved his hand. Just get rid of this obstructing tree for me. No other requests. Hurry up. If I can still see this tree before sunset, you two don't have to go home. Stay here as trees. Ha. Yingshu sneered in his heart. He was crying bitterly in the morning. He was 18 that year, and she was also 18 that year. It's been less than half a day and she's already an obstruction? This old man is really up to something. In that case, it's easy. Obito. Yingshu suddenly became more aggressive. What's wrong? Obito also became excited. Use your great fireball, come with me, and blow up this tree first. Isn't it just a mess? Isn't it just not a nuisance? Sending it to the Konoha guard department is also a gift. Sending it to heaven is also a gift. As soon as he said it, Iki had a small water ball in his left hand and a small battery in his right hand, and they were ready. Before the old man could react, the three types of chakra had already begun to merge, and the small water ball was gurgling and popping bubbles, and a hydrogen escape was about to be ready. At this point, Iki's first stage of hydrogen escape was already very mature. Hydrogen was generated quickly, with high efficiency, and the speed was several times faster than before. Warm reminder, the problem of logged-in users saving bookshelves across devices has been corrected. If you still cannot save, please remember the contents of the bookshelf first, clear the cookies of the browser, log in again, and add the bookshelf. Yingshu's next step is to streamline this process again, so that he can react from the beginning of chakra, and truly transform from combined ninjutsu to artificial blood-based elimination similar to dust escape. Only then can his hydrogen escape be regarded as a real escape technique, and lightning escape, yang escape, water escape reaction, wind escape control, and fire escape ignition, all in one breath. The most important step is the ignition step. The last time he borrowed fire, Yingshu remembered it deeply, and he didn't want to repeat it again. Are you ready, Obito? Come on, Iki. This time, Iki took less than 10 seconds to get ready, and Obito formed the seal steadily. The two seemed to be back by the river a month ago. But Iki had grown to the point where he could use hydrogen escape with his bare hands, and Obito no longer had to steal his grandmother's kerosene, and he finally learned the great fireball. Iki suddenly pushed the hydrogen escape balloon in his hand towards the half of the tree, and then shouted, "It's here. Remember to run after you spray it." Fire escape great fireball technique. Obito, who was pulling away, sprayed a hot fireball from his mouth, and the temperature of the air rose sharply. The next moment, boom. Explosions and flames splashed everywhere, and the entire training ground seemed to be shaken. Several ninjas who were training not far away looked over with shock on their faces, thinking that several detonating tags had exploded here. The old man's wine bottle was still on his lips, His eyes were wide open, and he didn't even realize that the wine was almost spilled. That is. Some memories rose in the old man's eyes, and his eyes gradually became kind as he looked at the small figure. He put away the wine bottle, wiped the corners of his mouth without any care, smiled again, and shook his head. I really don't know who it looks like. Huh. Iki and Obito both exhaled, looking at the tree of love in front of them, which was blown up by the two of them, and only a pile of black slag was left. They smiled at each other. Ijutsu, I think we can give this technique a name. Obito suggested. It's too early, Obito. Ijutsu waved his hand coolly. I've actually thought of a name, but the current power is not worthy of it. When he can develop Sea release and master the Yang release that can match it, as well as the lightning release for electrolysis, he will have the nerve to shout out that name. Hydrogen release, world nuclear leveling. But that's all for later. Ijutsu now just wants to see the expression of that weird old man. However, when he turned his head, the weird old man had disappeared. Ijutsu looked around, but couldn't see the old man. Instead, there were several ninjas who were practicing, looking over here with anger on their faces. Whose kids are you? Don't play with the exploding talisman. It's dangerous, you brats. It's true that it wasn't an exploding talisman at all, but a powerful combination ninjutsu. But when people saw the faces of the casters, they were just two brats who were still wet behind the ears, and they still instinctively thought it was an exploding talisman. Damn it. Obito argued, that's a ninjutsu. Ninjutsu, damn it. You bunch of lions. Don't whimper if you don't understand it. And Iki stared blankly in one direction. He couldn't find the old man, but he found another guy. Well, although that guy was well hidden, he was obviously distracted by the explosion just now, revealing his white hair. Isn't that Kakashi who was hammered in the head this morning? What is this guy following here for? Is he so angry that he wants to pick a fight? Looking at Kakashi who has huddled in the bushes and hasn't shown his head for a long time, an evil light suddenly flashed in Ika's eyes. Obito, how's your shuriken training going lately? Huh. Obito, who was still yelling, was stunned for a moment. I can hit 3 out of 10, and sometimes I can hit 4. So what? Then practice well. Iki pointed to the bushes where Kakashi was, bent down and picked up a pile of pebbles. Throw them for me. Warm reminder, there are functions such as switch between simplified and traditional Chinese, adjust font size, and reading background color in the upper right corner of the page. Chapter 17. I will let him avenge himself. Kakashi's mood was a bit complicated at the moment, and he suddenly felt like he had queued in a bookstore for a long time, but in the end he bought pirated books. Of course, it wasn't because of the rain of small stones, but because of the scene he just saw. How many things did these two guys hide? Kakashi felt bad. Was that the deafening explosion really caused by them? And Obito, when did this guy learn to use a fireball? Could it be that he was hiding his strength like that guy Iki? With such a strange emotion, Kakashi flashed out from the bushes. According to the rules of the martial arts world, if you dodge, you won't kill. Iki and Obito immediately stopped their fire coverage. Hey, isn't this the chief student? How come he is here? It's really strange. The yin yang man Iki came online. Damn. It's really Kakashi. Iki, you should have hit him with your shuriken earlier. Obito recognized Kakashi's face and his face became sullen as usual. Isn't it? Kakashi was really depressed. These two people were fighting, and the types of fighting were different. One was like a fool, and the other looked gentle, but was actually very bad. Kakashi glanced at the charred pits in front of the two people. With such power, it's no wonder that it was mistaken for an explosive tag. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he would never have believed it. What jutsu is this? Kakashi couldn't help but ask. None of your business. Obito started to speak, but was stopped by Iki. It's just an ordinary combination of ninjutsu, with a little bit of my personal understanding of life added in. It's not worth mentioning. Not worth mentioning. Ninjutsu, combination? What the hell, this is not ordinary at all. Kakashi frowned. The boy's curiosity drove him to want to know more, but the pride in his blood made him not know where to start. After holding it in for a long time, he finally said only one sentence. Well, it looks pretty powerful. It's just so-so. Not worth mentioning. Not worth mentioning. Yingshu waved his hands and said with a hypocritical, humble smile. The air suddenly became silent, which was somewhat awkward. Obito, who was about to spray, was stopped and simply stopped talking. He put his hands on his chest and turned his head to the side with an I don't want to listen look. So, Kakashi couldn't hold it in after all and asked, Uchiha Kitakage and his cousin Uchiha Wakaka, who just got discharged from the hospital, were both defeated by you two using this trick. Not worth mentioning. No, huh? Discharged from the hospital? So soon? Yingshu didn't care about hypocrisy anymore, and his expression suddenly became unfriendly. According to his experience, combined with the nature of the Uchiha clan, although these 2 days have been calm, as Obito said, Uchiha Kitakayo has more than one cousin, and the Uchiha clan is not a soft persimmon that can be manipulated. But this matter is definitely not over. Iki and Obito looked at each other and found that each other's eyes were serious. The two nodded tacitly, and this scene fell into Kakashi's eyes, which also made Kakashi speechless. No. Looking at the posture of the two, are you planning to kill people to silence them? Why didn't I realize that you two were so fierce before? But speechless, Kakashi was still a little envious of them in his heart. Children are active children and are full of curiosity about everything. Kakashi is just arrogant, not autistic. He also wants to play with some old friends. Although the two people in front of him are a little out of tune, a little aggressive, a little arrogant, a little hypocritical, and a little. But since he discovered their strange behavior. Warm reminder, in order to facilitate everyone's book selection, the ranking page of the website has been optimized. You can try it. Kakashi suddenly felt that this kind of bond between the two was something he, as the son of White Fang and the top student in the class, did not have. It seems that we have to hurry up with our plan, Obito. Iki said seriously. Yes. Obito nodded seriously. Then let's start quickly. There are too many trees here. Let's go to another place to avoid being troubled by that old man again. Let's go to that place. There are fewer people, and we can fry some fish while we're at it. The two were about to leave. Kakashi, who was eavesdropping on the side, saw that the two were like this, and it seemed that they were going to do something big. Looking at the backs of the two people leaving, Kakashi hesitated. I just want to know what that technique is. Yes, that's it. Kakashi convinced himself and pretended to leave, but suddenly turned around and quietly followed the two people. At the same time, the Uchiha clan, Uchiha Kitakage, with a bandage on his head, kneeled on the ground. In front of him was his cousin, Uchiha Wakaha, who was lying quietly, with his upper body and face tightly tied up with bandages. Behind him, an old man in his 50s, with his eyes slightly narrowed, looked intimidating without even getting angry. There were many people standing outside the door, both men and women, from young to middle-aged, with angry expressions on their faces, but no one spoke. The air was terribly silent, and people even controlled their breathing intentionally. It was not known whether they were afraid of disturbing Uchiha Wakaha, who was lying down, or afraid of angering this dignified old man. Patriarch Fugaku. At this time, accompanied by a respectful and surprised voice, a middle-aged man walked over. He was wearing a green vest of Konoha, with the unique logo of the Konoha Guard tied around his left arm. He was the current head of the Uchiha clan and the leader of the Konoha Guard, Uchiha Fugaku. Yes. Uchiha Fugaku nodded repeatedly, greeted the clan members, walked straight into the house, and stood behind the old man. Grand Elder, I'm here. Uchiha Fugaku glanced at Uchiha Ruka lying on the ground, then looked at Uchiha Kitakage, who was kneeling and trembling, and sighed. This is all the fault of the clan leader. It's none of your business, Fugaku. The old man waved his hand and said calmly, I already understand the situation. It was these two pieces of trash who had an absolute advantage, yet they were beaten into this state. As the clan leader and the leader of the Konoha Guard, you are busy enough all day long. It is these two troublesome guys who bring shame to the Uchiha family. Uchiha Fugaku frowned when he heard this, but just as he was about to say something, the great elder spoke again. However, the Uchiha clan was able to survive until today, becoming the most powerful clan in the ninja world since the war era, not only because of its strength, but also because of the fear of outsiders. We can't just let this matter go, Fugaku. The great elder slowly turned around, his cold eyes pointed directly at Fugaku. Since it is a matter for the younger generation, let the younger generation handle it. You, the clan leader, have just taken office not long ago, and the clan must not let outsiders look down on you. From the beginning to the end, after Fugaku came to this room and greeted him, he had no chance to say another word. The great elder in front of him had a very high status in the Uchiha clan, and even when Fugaku was young, he received a lot of guidance from the great elder. I understand, great elder, there are still things to do at the Konoha guard, so I will take my leave first. Fugaku bowed slightly and said respectfully. At this moment, it seemed that the great elder in front of him was the clan leader, and Fugaku was more like a clan member who was sent to work in the Konoha guard. After Fugaku left, "Rii, come in," the great elder called out, and a young man walked in immediately. If Iki and Obito were here, they might have discovered that this guy named Uchiha Rii was 8 times similar to Uchiha Wakaha. He was just 2 years older and a little taller. "Do you know who beat your brother like this?" the great elder asked. Uchiha Rii responded, "A kid from the same clan, and a kid without a surname." "Do you know what to do?" the elder asked again. "I know." Uchiha Rii nodded. "I will give him a warning, and then wait for Uoto to recover, and let him avenge himself." This answer made the elder very satisfied. He nodded slightly, then waved his hand. "Go ahead." Uchiha Rii then disappeared, and left here in an instant. Warm reminder, the problem of saving bookshelves across devices for logged-in users has been corrected. If it still cannot be saved, please remember the contents of the bookshelf first, clear the cookies of the browser, and then log in again, and add it to the bookshelf. Chapter 18. Let's improve together. Kakashi. "No, why did you follow me again?" Obito was speechless. "Why is Kakashi so fat today?" "I was just passing by." Kakashi lied calmly. Yingshu smiled but said nothing. How could he not see Kakashi's little thoughts? Just like a college dormitory, no matter how much old Six likes to review secretly, he can't resist the temptation to play with his roommates. Kakashi's behavior is simply that he has developed his sultry nature in advance. Don't you see that Kakashi in the future will also read pornographic books all day long until dawn? But looking at Kakashi like this, Yingshu suddenly remembered his previous little idea. The reaction of hydrogen escape is very complicated. It requires water escape blessed by yang escape, lightning escape that electrolyzes water escape, and it also needs to be ignited by open flames. Although with his sophisticated chakra manipulation ability, most of it can be done by one person. But in the final analysis, this is not the so-called bloodline limit, nor is it a bloodline elimination, and there is no such thing as hydrogen chakra. The sky-breaking technique is just a combination ninjutsu. The key lies in the word combination. Yingshu felt a little itchy in his heart. The power of hydrogen ninjutsu objectively depends on the amount of chakra. He can launch it alone, but in the end he has to take out 3 portions of chakra at least. But if he seeks cooperation, he is only responsible for the combination of yang ninjutsu and water ninjutsu. Kakashi is responsible for lightning ninjutsu, and Obito is responsible for ignition. Apart from anything else, the power is at least multiplied several times. Stop lying, you bastard. You just passed by here from the training ground. Do you think Master Obito is a fool? Obito said as he was about to chase Kakashi away. How could a third party interfere with his and Iki's secret base? Kakashi was speechless, and he didn't know how to explain it, but fortunately at this time, he saw Iki's very friendly smile. How to say it? Kakashi always felt that there was a price on his head, and Iki seemed to be thinking about how to sell him. Obito, this is your fault. Iki comforted Obito, and looked at Kakashi, when Obito looked confused. You pansy. Kakashi is our classmate after all, and Nakata even covered for us. How could you treat him like this? It's true that we have to practice hard, and it's true that we seek progress. But there is strength in numbers, and Kakashi's joining will only make our small group stronger. A chopstick can be easily broken, but a bunch of chopsticks can be tightly wrapped into a ball. The 2 of us were able to beat Uchiha Kitakayo and his cousin to the hospital. Wasn't it because of our unity and cooperation? Believe me, Obito. Iki held Obito with his left hand and Kakashi with his right hand, his face filled with the light of a saint. Kakashi will definitely be a good partner for us, won't he? Obito. He really wanted to know if Yingshu in front of him had taken the wrong medicine or had been stimulated by something. Otherwise, why would he be talking nonsense? Kakashi was also confused. No. When will I join you? Can't I just not pass by? Can't I just leave? What the hell is the deja vu of you, a master of MLM? The two boys who were forcibly held hands by Yingshu were somewhat doubtful about their lives at this moment. It took Kakashi a few full seconds before he reacted and pulled his little hand away from Yingshu. Obito immediately pulled Iki aside and asked quietly, "What's going on, Iki? What are you doing? You have a pig brain." Iki's face changed immediately. "Where can you find such a good sparring partner? Besides, do you know what the old man has arranged for you tomorrow? Wouldn't it be good to have more people to help?" Obito was stunned, but this time he quickly figured out the situation. Damn. Just tell me earlier. The two turned around immediately, but saw Kakashi looking at them with contempt. "You should know that I can hear you from this distance, right?" Iki's old face suddenly turned red, and he was exposed. However, he still pretended to be calm and waved his hands, saying, "Don't worry about the details, Kakashi. Don't you want to become stronger? Don't you want to know how we can be so powerful?" As Yingshu spoke, his expression suddenly became mysterious. "That is a combined ninjutsu. According to my theory, ideally, 3 people can maximize the power of that technique. Maybe we can usher in a new era. After Konoha's irregular fangs, a new era after the 3 ninjas of Konoha. Are you sure you don't want to try it? Warm reminder, if you think this book is good, please remember to add it to your bookshelf to avoid not being able to find it next time." To be honest, Yingshu's words almost moved me. Admittedly, he might have tried to fool Kakashi, but the future of hydrogen escape is definitely promising. As long as he has more chakra, masters more ninjutsu, and then finds a faster way to react. Raising his hand to rub hydrogen escape, a ring finger, the nuclear war of the ninja world will no longer be a slogan sooner or later. Kakashi's eyes, from contempt at first, to suspicion, gradually, became entangled. Of course he didn't believe Iki's nonsense. What era? The lame ghost stories his father told him were more convincing than this. But then again, practicing together, getting stronger together, seems not bad. The word together, in Kakashi's eyes, is even more attractive than that combined ninjutsu. Kakashi hesitated again. A guy who is valued by my dad, and that adult shouldn't hold me back, right? Kakashi thought to himself. In the end, under the clear and sincere eyes of Iki, while Obito pretended to be indifferent, he was actually thinking about how to trick Kakashi into being his younger brother. "Okay, but don't expect me to help you guys. I want to be stronger, but I don't want to be stupid." Kakashi spread his hands and said seemingly indifferently. But in fact, his little heart was beating faster and faster. So exciting. Am I going to have a partner too? Fight together in the future? Skip classes together? Question mark? Every sullen person has a little monster living in his heart. Even a child is no exception. Okay, let's get started. Iki shouted, and Obito rolled up his sleeves. Kakashi was a little confused by this scene, and he asked in confusion, "How do we start?" Of course it's sparring. Only by fighting can we get the fastest improvement. Otherwise, why do you think we are so strong? Iki said as a matter of course. Is that so? Kakashi expressed doubts, and of course there was a certain degree of contempt. You are worthy of making fighting sound so pure and unconventional. However, 2 punches rushed over, leaving Kakashi no room for thinking. I'm afraid. Kakashi dodged with a series of backflips, and finally jumped onto a big rock, his face full of surprise. What are you two doing? Didn't you say you were going to practice against each other? I'm practicing. Obito made hand seals with both hands, and after a moment, he was ready. Fire style, great fireball. Song. The fire condensed into a fireball and rushed towards Kakashi. That's too much. Kakashi was about to complain that he had walked into a thief's lair without any intention while making hand seals with both hands, preparing to use the earth flow wall to block the fireball. But the chicken thief Yingshu had already circled around him at some point. He had also rolled a Rasengan in his hand at some point. Let's make progress together. Kakashi, Yingshu, who never forgot his original intention, did not forget to shout. 10 minutes later, Kakashi was lying on the ground, panting. His clothes were tattered, and his face was bruised and swollen. How could such a wolf be so powerful? Normally speaking, it would be easy for Kakashi to defeat Obito. The training since childhood is not comparable to that of Obito, who is only good at fighting. But don't forget that there is Yingshu, a strategic ninja who always uses Rasengan to refuse close combat. With the reckless man in front and the old six behind, it would be very difficult for Kakashi to get out of this unscathed. But to be honest, Kakashi was still very satisfied. After the two of them worked together to beat him down, not only did they not finish him off, but they fought each other again. It seems to be targeting him, but actually, hiss. Kakashi touched the corner of his eye and grimaced in pain. This is targeting him, damn it. But, this feeling seems not bad. Warm reminder, the problem of logged-in users saving bookshelves across devices has been corrected. If it still cannot be saved, please remember the contents of the bookshelf first, clear the browser cookies, and then log in again, and add it to the bookshelf. Chapter 19. Dare to hit Obito? Don't you know he is under my protection? The next morning, Iki was woken up by his biological clock, and he got up as usual, cooked, and washed up before the rice was cooked. After finishing his meal, there was still more than an hour before class, so Iki refined his chakra for a while. As a diligent and studious young man, Iki's mornings were busy and fulfilling. After an hour of preparation, Iki put on his small school bag and set off. Today is Friday, and there are classes only in the morning, so there is no need to skip classes. However, the three of them discussed who would fall first, and who would be responsible for the clone jutsu and transformation jutsu. This gave Obito enough energy to kill Kakashi, and also made Kakashi feel that he was being targeted. Iki walked slowly, and arrived at the school and the classroom, but found that Kakashi and Obito were already there. Kakashi was reading extracurricular books as usual, and these books would become bestsellers of Sim Immortal when he became an adult. Obito, on the other hand, was sitting in his seat and laughing. Morning, Kakashi. Iki greeted him. Morning. Kakashi responded. After all, he was also a member of the strong team, so he didn't have to be so aloof. Morning, Obito. Obito, who was absent-minded, didn't respond and was still staring out the window in a daze. Obito? Obito still didn't respond. Iki and Kakashi looked at each other and felt something was wrong. His expression was dull, but his eyes were a little fixed, as if something big had happened. Iki recognized this situation. The last time he appeared was the day before they had an appointment to fight with Uchiha. Obito. Iki came to the seat and nudged Obito. Obito came back to his senses and glanced at Iki. Morning, Iki. Morning. Iki hesitated for a moment, but in the end he chose not to ask. Obito is of this character. Under normal circumstances, he can't hold back his thoughts and wishes that everyone in Konoha would know about it, but if he doesn't want to say it, even Ichiraku Ramen can't fool him. Ding ling ling, the bell for class rang, and the teacher came to the classroom with the somewhat old textbook. The students turned over a new page, fighting sleepiness while attending class, and it was not hard at all. Finally, the boring class was over, but as soon as the teacher announced the end of school, the students who were just drowsy turned into the elites of the ninja world and rushed out in a swarm. The level of excitement was even more outrageous than the practical class, and even several times stronger than the usual school. But Obito still sat in his original position, not excited by the school bell, not excited by the cheers of his classmates. He seemed to be indifferent, and turned into the sage of Uchiha. Let's go, Obito. Let's eat. We still have work to do in the afternoon. Yingshu asked, suppressing his doubts. I won't go, Iki. My grandma told me to go home early to clean up. Obito seemed to have thought of the answer a long time ago. He tilted his head and gave Iki an apologetic smile. This made Iki feel even more uneasy. If he was just angry, it would be fine. He might have been too tired from the sparring yesterday. It was understandable. But Obito was like this, and even brought up his grandma. The situation was a bit serious. However, Iki suppressed his curiosity and worry and smiled. Well, see you tomorrow. Yeah, see you tomorrow. Obito then put on his small school bag and walked out of the classroom alone. What's wrong with him? After Obito left, Kakashi came to Iki's side. The two looked at Obito's running back through the window. Kakashi also looked puzzled. It's not like him. Don't worry about it. When he figures it out, he'll tell you. It shouldn't be a big deal, Iki said with a raised eyebrow. It's not a showdown on the Mumu Bridge. It's not a big deal. Obito jogged all the way. When he reached a street corner, he looked around cautiously. He still felt uneasy, so he slyly walked around a few times. I guess he didn't catch up. Obito exhaled, his eyes full of worry, but soon turned into determination. Finally, Obito returned to the Uchiha clan, but he didn't go home. Instead, he took a training ground of the Uchiha clan. After the unremitting efforts of the second Hokage and Shimura Danzo, Uchiha finally has a clan land that absolutely belongs to them and no one disturbs them. The clan land has everything, including snack streets, bars, casinos, training grounds, and even Kabukicho. It can be called a small Konoha. It's just a little far away, half the distance from the core area of Konoha, but it's quiet. Warm reminder, if you think this book is good, please remember to add it to your bookshelf to avoid being unable to find it next time. Obito came to the training ground, which was not as lively as the Konoha training ground. There was only one person who had been waiting for a long time. The man should be about to become an adult, wearing Uchiha clan clothes, with a sword on his waist, 3 heads taller than Obito, with long black hair, looking a bit handsome, but with a bit cold eyes. Senior Itsu. Obito came to the young man nervously, lowered his head. Sorry, I can't bring Iki here. The young man in front of Obito was Uchiha Kitakiji's cousin and brother, Uchiha Itsu. In the Uchiha, if the same clan members take action, the impact is not big, especially if they are still children. But if outsiders intervene, even if they are just sarcastic, they will be regarded as enemies by the Uchiha. This is very similar to another major clan in Konoha, the Hyuga clan. They are all for the purpose of establishing the prestige of the clan and protecting the blood limit of the clan members from being coveted by outsiders. But the two clans have essential differences in their starting points. The Hyuga clan, the bird in the cage, guarantees that the Byakugan will not be lost, and even if an accident occurs, the bird in the cage will destroy the Byakugan. The Uchiha clan would be more hardcore. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Any enemy who challenges the glory of the Uchiha clan will be hunted down and killed by the Uchiha clan at all costs. This is what Hideki and Obito did in the eyes of the Uchiha clan. Of course, Obito is a member of the Uchiha clan, so he will not be too embarrassed, at least on the surface. But as an outsider, Hideki beat an Uchiha clan member so badly that he was hospitalized. It is impossible for the Uchiha clan not to care about this tone. That is not the Uchiha clan. I gave you a chance, Obito. Uchiha Rie said in a cold voice. Ruakahu and Kitakayo are not as skilled as others, but the honor of the Uchiha clan cannot be violated. My original intention was just to give that kid a warning, but your actions today really disappointed me. In that case, I'll go find him in person. Uchiha Rie left the training ground straight away, and before leaving, he glanced at Obito coldly with disgust in his eyes. At this time, he should still be on his way home. You don't really think that I have to go through you to find him? You regret it. What I hate most is deception. Originally, he just needed to wait for Wakana to wake up and take revenge himself, but now, he has to face me, and it will be my wrath. Obito's face changed when he heard this, and he turned around quickly. Senior. But Obito didn't get a response. Uchiha Rie walked straight and completely ignored him. Obito gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and his breathing became heavier. If you have the guts, come at me. Why didn't you show up when they beat me up? Damn it. Obito shouted hysterically, shouting out all the grievances of these years. He swung his fist and rushed straight to Uchiha Rie, looking for death. Uchiha Rie's eyes immediately turned cold. He turned around and looked at the little brat rushing towards him. He didn't even draw his sword, but kicked him directly. This kick was powerful and heavy, and it actually carried chakra. Combined with Obito's own inertia, if the kick hit, Obito would probably lose half his life on the spot. But Uchiha Rie didn't mean to hold back. Some people, although they were born in Uchiha, grew up in Uchiha, wore Uchiha clothes, and wore Uchiha clan emblems. But in this clan where strength is supreme, for some people, they are just ordinary people with the Uchiha surname. They are not worthy of the noble blood and glory of the Uchiha clan. Besides, Obito took the initiative to attack Uchiha Rii. Even if Uchiha Rii beat Obito into Uchiha Wakaha, it would not affect him. It seemed that Obito was about to hate Uchiha. At this time, a voice suddenly exploded. Fuck him. Uchiha Rii was stunned. And the next moment, a figure flashed between him and Obito, before the two were about to touch. Earth style, earth flow wall. Obito was a thief. He knew that Uchiha Rii was a chunin, and he and Iki were definitely not someone they could deal with. Since he was a member of the Uchiha clan, it shouldn't be too hard on him, so he chose to take it all on his own. Obito was also a bit of a jerk. Although he knew that Uchiha Rii was a chunin, when he heard that he was going to cause trouble for Iki, his first reaction was to fight. Although Obito was a bit of a jerk, he was not stupid. Challenging Uchiha Rii was one thing, and hitting the wall was another, especially when there was Kakashi's dog head on the wall. Bang! Obito quickly crossed his hands in front of him, but he was still hit hard, and his head was buzzing for a while. On the other side, Iki, who slowly rubbed out two Rasengans with his right and left hands, also rushed towards Uchiha Rii. Dare to hit Obito? Don't you know I'm protecting him? Damn it. Warm reminder, the problem of saving bookshelves across devices for logged-in users has been fixed. If it still cannot be saved, please remember the contents of the bookshelf first, clear the cookies of the browser, log in again, and add it to the bookshelf. Chapter 20. Battle against Chunin. Ninja battles are often decided in an instant. Kakashi separated Obito and Uchiha Rii, and Iki ran towards Uchiha Rii wielding the Rasengan. But the difference in strength was right in front of him, and facing the rushing Iki, Uchiha Rii seemed particularly calm. He stood still with his hands and feet, dodged Iki's attack by leaning sideways, and then hit Iki with a knee. The knee was hit hard, and Iki was hit in the face on the spot, and his body flew backwards, but Uchiha Rii frowned. Clones. Sure enough, the next moment, accompanied by a puff, Iki's body turned into a puff of white smoke and disappeared. Kakashi's earth wall fell, revealing three boys standing side by side. The three members of the Little Forest Progress Team, and the first-year truant team of the Konohagakure Ninja School, are here. Iki, bastard Kakashi. Obito, who was still a little dizzy, looked at the two people who appeared beside him and muttered absent-mindedly. Kakashi's face darkened. Why is this guy still so eager to be beaten at this time? Your big cleanup is a bit abstract, Obito. Iki smiled calmly. Does your grown mother know? Iki, I. Obito's eyes were a little red, and his voice was a little choked. But Yingshu's face turned serious. I'll settle the score with you later. Just cheer up, and deal with this bastard first. Although it was only a clone that was defeated, some of the pain was still reflected on him. It hurt a lot, plus the unexpected speed. The guy in front of him was definitely not a good guy. Yingshu felt a little aggrieved. First it was Uchiha Kitakage and his cousin Uchiha Wakaka, and now it's this guy again. This kind of character who doesn't even deserve a name in the future. Like a nesting doll, a cousin comes to his biological brother. It has given him a headache again and again. It really hurts. His name is Uchiha Rii, and he is Uchiha Jakuha's brother. He is at least a chunin, and he may be a jonin. Obito finally came to his senses, and the sobs just now disappeared. When encountering a fight, especially a group fight, Obito can always cheer up. It shouldn't be a jonin, otherwise your clones won't be able to get close. Kakashi analyzed. This is Uchiha, don't forget the Sharingan and illusion. The three major symbols of Uchiha: fire escape, Sharingan illusion, and hairstyle. Uchiha swordsmanship. Yingshu nodded in agreement, but even if he is not a jonin, this guy may have opened a Sharingan. Be careful. Not everyone is as fantastic as Obito. The promoted Chunin also failed to open the Sharingan, and only had 2 Magatama before death. But then he jumped from 2 Magatama to Mangekyo in one breath, which can be called a medical miracle. Iki was not sure whether the Uchiha in front of him had opened his Sharingan, but he couldn't fight with his eyes closed, so he had to take a gamble. Uchiha Rii looked at the 3 people in front of him. There was no ridicule, nor did he show anger, but he was as cold as ever, adhering to the principles of Uchiha. His eyes swept over Obito and Iki, and he did not hide his disgust at all. But when he looked at Kakashi, he was a little cautious. Yes, cautious, but not obvious. He just cared about Kakashi's identity as the White Fang's son, but he didn't take it too seriously. This is Uchiha. It's enough to teach a few brats a lesson. There's no need to be timid. However, the pride of the Uchiha clan will not let Uchiha Itsu take it too seriously. You three are the ones who hurt Kitakage and Wakaka. Even White Fang is here. It's no wonder. Uchiha Itsu crossed his arms over his chest, with a look of I won't start the fight first. Kakashi's eyes suddenly became a little strange. What should I do? I kind of regret following here. They were the ones fighting, not me. If dad knew about this, well, with dad's bad taste, he would probably ask him if he fought for a girl. Kakashi sighed and felt like he was on a pirate ship. Kakashi. Ikki's complicated tone called out a sound effect Kakashi, which made Kakashi stunned. Are you planning to let me go? Don't want to implicate me? It's normal for Kakashi to think so. The situation in front of him is very clear. Although Obito is unreasonable, he is still very loyal. Didn't he come here alone to protect Ikki? Kakashi naturally thought that Ikki was also such a person. He seemed to be black-bellied, but in fact he was also very loyal. But Ikki was destined to disappoint him. If we don't deal with this guy, we may only have one chance to attack. Obito and I have a very powerful move, which is our strongest attack. But this move takes some time, so, please. Kakashi. Yingshu said it with real feelings. In fact, he has already thought about practicing hydrogen escape with Kakashi in the future. There is strength in numbers, and only in this way can the power of hydrogen escape be brought into play to the maximum extent. But now Kakashi knows nothing after all, and he only stays at the stage of that is not a detonating tag, and he can't let Kakashi use it together. So, Kakashi can only delay time. Kakashi was speechless. Warm reminder, this site uses cookie technology to save your reading history and bookshelf, so clearing browser cookie data, reinstalling the browser and other operations will make your reading progress disappear. It is recommended to occasionally take a screenshot and save the bookshelf in case you can't find the novel you are reading. He looked at Yingshu with contempt, but he saw a sincere look. Not only Yingshu, but also Obito was like this. You two must have discussed it. Damn. Kakashi almost couldn't help but curse. He was the chief. Why did he join these two guys? However, Kakashi still resisted the urge to turn around and rushed, gritted his teeth, and said, then you two hurry up. After that, he bent his body slightly, like a little cheetah, and looked at Uchiha with a helpless look. Come on, let me see how big the gap is between Ruohu and White Fang. Uchiha still didn't say a word, as if the long sword was just a decoration. Kakashi sighed, and in the admiring eyes of Ikki and Obito, he charged. I'm sorry senior. Kakashi was still polite, and didn't forget to say hello before taking action. Uchiha also responded with the etiquette of the Uchiha clan, raised his hand to block Kakashi's fist, and then kicked Kakashi in the chest. You haven't reached the level of offending me yet. Kakashi was speechless again, turned around nimbly to avoid it, turned his hands into swords, and performed the hat-take sword technique that he had practiced since he was a child. He was puzzled in his heart. Why are the people of the Uchiha clan so arrogant? Compared with the guy in front of him, Obito is even cute. Damn. Obito deserves a beating more. Kakashi was fighting passionately with depression. And Ikki and Obito, on the other hand, have already completed their preparations. Kakashi, get out of the way. Ikki shouted, and a hydrogen balloon that consumed almost all of his chakra was ready. Obito also puffed up his cheeks and made seals, ready to launch a huge fireball. Kakashi immediately stopped fighting and quickly retreated, rubbing his arms when he landed. This guy is indeed from the Uchiha clan. He is very strong. His physical skills are also extremely fierce, and every attack is very accurate, and this is the case without opening the Sharingan. But at this time, Kakashi also secretly looked forward to it. That technique, is it their combined ninjutsu? I heard from that guy Yingshu that this technique is ideally used by 3 people together, so in the future. Before Kakashi could think more, the combined ninjutsu of the two had already been aimed at Uchiha. First Yingshu's hydrogen escape big balloon, the size of which was a circle larger than before, but the speed of its advancement was faster. Obito's fireball followed closely behind, and both of them controlled it very accurately, avoiding the possibility of premature explosion. Obito was serious about this point because he made a mistake in the operation last time. The cotton swab for ignition was not thrown properly, which directly caused Ika's right hand to almost get burned. There was some worry in Ika's eyes, but more of it was confidence. He did not hold back. Not to mention the power of the explosion, there must be 10 detonating tags. He even saw the light of victory. However, Ika still thought the battle of ninjas was too simple. The killing between ninjas is done to the extreme. Ninjutsu, taijutsu, jutsu, and jinjutsu are just tools of ninjas. The most important thing in the battle between ninjas, besides the word strength, is intelligence. Although Uchiha didn't know the basic form of hydrogen release, he knew how his brother was blown to the hospital. You're overthinking, kid. Uchiha stood still, forming seals with his hands, and quickly turned into a shadow. Wind release, wind attack technique. In an instant, a strong wind blew up, and in the astonished eyes of Yingshu, his hydrogen release balloon was blown back a lot, and met Obito's fireball, and exploded with the explosion and fire wave. Boom. The explosion sounded as expected, but the effect did not meet expectations. Uchiha put one hand in front of him to block the limited power of the explosion, but his cuffs were burned and tattered. But that was all. The combination skills of Iki and Obito, which had always been invincible, were broken on the spot by Uchiha's ordinary wind escape. This is a chunin. Even if he is still some distance away from being a jonin, he is not a very eye-catching existence in the ninja world in Konoha. In terms of strength and vision, they are far from being comparable to those of two ungraduated kids. If the power of hydrogen escape could hit Uchiha completely, it might be another story. But there are not so many ifs. Uchiha is a chunin. He has strength and brains. In fact, Obito and Iki can be proud of the fact that Uchiha was only slightly injured. But before they could come to their senses and give themselves a thumbs up, it's over. Remember, stay away from Uchiha people in the future. A cold voice sounded from behind the two of them. Uchiha had appeared behind the two of them in an instant without them knowing it. He formed a pair of swords with both hands and raised them high. The next moment, he could make the two of them fall down on the spot. But at this moment, a hoarse but charming voice sounded quietly. Ninja law, Orochi. Warm reminder, there are functions such as switch between simplified and traditional Chinese, adjust font size, and reading background color in the upper right corner of the page. Chapter 21. Looking forward to seeing you next time. Ninjutsu, Orochi. Along with the voice, a big snake suddenly rushed in. The big snake was as thick as a bucket, and its whole body was indestructible white phosphorus. Once it appeared, it not only blocked Uchiha's attack, but also protected Obito and Iki under it. Uchiha retreated again and again, until he came to the wall of the patrol ground, with the chakra on his feet, attached to the wall and his body parallel to the ground. His eyes were fixed on the big snake, and the cold and evil figure with his fingers raised, standing proudly on the field. Orochimaru. Lord. Uchiha frowned, and it seemed that he was very unhappy with Orochimaru's arrival. It's rare to see Lord Orochimaru come to the Uchiha clan. I wonder what he's doing here? Uchiha asked with a frown. The person who came was none other than Orochimaru. This cold gentleman from Konoha usually didn't have much to do with the Uchiha clan. His sudden appearance here and the direct rescue of the two brats put Uchiha in a dilemma for a while. He couldn't figure out Orochimaru's intentions, nor did he know what the relationship was between Obito and Iki and Orochimaru. We really don't come here very often, Orochimaru said in his hoarse voice, while ending his own technique. The white snake disappeared in white smoke, and Iki, who was watching from the side, didn't know for a moment whether it was a ninjutsu or a summoning technique. Orochimaru noticed Ika's gaze, and his snake pupils scanned the little guy, then looked at Uchiha on the wall of the training ground. But with your level and strength, even if I come here often, you are not qualified to see me. What a poisonous tongue. Obito hasn't come to his senses yet, but Kakashi and Iki widened their eyes at the same time. These words are not very lethal, but they are extremely insulting. Uchiha's expression suddenly turned cold. He was stopped from teaching the two little brats a lesson, and then he was humiliated. Uchiha never concealed his hatred for the cold man Orochimaru in front of him. It's still the same sentence. This is Uchiha. They are not afraid of anyone. Being fearless is one thing, and whether to take action is another. It is true that the Uchiha clan members are ambitious and arrogant, but their IQ is also online, and not low. Uchiha Rie looked at Iki and Obito coldly, and then his gaze returned to Orochimaru. One day, I will let you look me in the eye, Lord Orochimaru. After saying that, Uchiha Rie disappeared. However, when he left, not many people cared. Orochimaru didn't take Uchiha Rie seriously. He didn't even know who this person was. At this moment, Orochimaru's snake eyes were full of vitality, staring at the little guy Iki in front of him. And Yingshu was staring at Orochimaru, not even knowing when Uchiha Itsu left. Uchiha Itsu used wind escape to break hydrogen escape, which was indeed beyond Yingshu's expectations. However, compared to this possibility that Yingshu had already thought of when developing hydrogen escape, Orochimaru's sudden appearance was what caught Yingshu off guard. This guy, what's going on? Yingshu was a little confused. After all, Orochimaru was as dangerous as Uchiha Madara at this time. We are not afraid of thieves stealing, but we are afraid of thieves thinking about it. In this regard, Orochimaru and Uchiha Madara are basically the same in nature. Both of them are targeting child trafficking. The starting time is more than 5 years and less than 10 years. It seems that you can already skillfully allocate chakra. Very good. Orochimaru's voice was hoarse but charming. Hearing Obito's mist, hearing Kakashi's gossip fire burning in his eyes, Yingshu felt cold in his heart. This guy, is he really plotting against me? Judging from the tone, he must have been squatting for a long time. Warm reminder, if you can't find the book title, you can try searching for the author. Maybe he just changed his name. Actually, Obito deserves the main credit. He has made the most progress. Yingshu decisively chose to let Obito take the top position, hoping that Orochimaru can discover Obito's potential as soon as possible and compete with Uchiha Madara. However, before Obito could react, Orochimaru suddenly raised his fingers again. This startled Iki, and his chakra gathered in his palms, entering self-defense mode. In a hurry, people's potential can often burst out. Iki's fastest record of making a Rasengan is 3 seconds, and this time he shortened by 1 second. But when he made a Rasengan within 2 seconds, and was ready to fight for Zenai, a little white snake holding a scroll appeared in Orochimaru's hand. Obito was confused again. What happened to Iki? Even Kakashi was confused by Iki's move. The atmosphere on the field suddenly became awkward, but Orochimaru didn't seem to care. He looked at Iki in front of him with a half smile, and the interest in his eyes was so subtle that it was creepy. Your technique requires a high degree of chakra nature transformation. Here are some ninjutsu, which are enough for you now, Orochimaru said, his body slowly melting into the ground, giving a sense of lurking underground. The little snake spit out a wet and sticky scroll and disappeared with Orochimaru. Looking forward to our next meeting. Orochimaru's voice echoed in the air, and Ika's expression changed again and again. First it was the weird old man, then Orochimaru. He always felt that he might be too old recently, but the key point is that he is not yet 60 years old. The brave Obito picked up the scroll left by Orochimaru, opened it and was stunned. Fire style, fire dragon bullet, water style, water link, lightning style, thunder blast, wind style, great breakthrough, earth style, yellow spring. How do you read this word? Swamp, earth style, yellow spring swamp, is a B-level earth style ninjutsu. Kakashi, who came over at some point, explained with a strange expression. Obito was shocked and said, wow, I'm rich. Iki. Orochimaru actually left behind 5 ninjutsu, and most of them were of higher level, much stronger than the small water bowl and small battery that Iki knew. Lord Orochimaru, you are such a kind and amiable senior. Kakashi was shocked for a long time and sighed. This made Iki come back to his senses. Kind and amiable? Forget it. He would have defected from the village and stared at you so hard that you doubted your life. That would have been really kind and amiable. At the same time, Iki was a little puzzled. At this time, Orochimaru should not have become a scientist yet, right? According to Iki's impression, Orochimaru was on the road of no return because he failed in the election for Hokage. There is no reason to target him now. When I become powerful in the future, I must find a chance to thank Orochimaru. Obito exhaled, looked at the great fire dragon in the scroll, and sighed. Iki nodded when he heard it. No matter what, Orochimaru's appearance today did a great favor to the three of them. Not only did he catch up with Uchiha Wakaka's brother, but he also left behind such a ninjutsu scroll, which solved his urgent needs. Iki knew that they would be very useful to him, and very suitable for hydrogen escape just by hearing the names of those ninjutsu. This time, Orochimaru is really a big shot. It's a pity that the Hokage is recommended to succeed him, so I have to vote for you, no matter what I say in the future. Yingshu murmured in his heart. What Orochimaru will become in the future is actually not that important to him. After all, in the future, if you give him some time, he can also be friendly and amiable, and a true world-class core. We are all intellectuals, so who is afraid of who? Warm reminder, there are functions such as switch between simplified and traditional Chinese, adjust font size, and reading background color in the upper right corner of the page. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22: The Long Road Ahead. After a small disturbance, the three of them realized that they had not eaten lunch. Iki immediately suggested eating together to celebrate, and Obito patted his chest and said he would treat them. The three of them immediately came to Ichiraku Ramen. It was just past mealtime, so there was no need to queue, but Obito was a little embarrassed. Hey Iki, do you have any money in your pocket? Didn't we give all our money to that old man? Where would I get the money? Iki, who had been eating instant noodles for the past 2 days, said he couldn't help. Let me do it. In the end, Kakashi raised his hand and took on everything. Obito and Iki were still a little embarrassed, so they only dared to order a regular set meal. But when Kakashi took out his wallet, and the stack of money thicker than his wallet caught their eyes, they immediately lost their composure. Kakashi, how come you are so rich? Obito said in astonishment. Iki was also a little unhappy. As the son of White Fang, Kakashi's conditions must be better than his own, which is normal. But carrying his living expenses for several years is a bit too much. This is not my money, it's my father's. Kakashi quickly put away his wallet and said contemptuously to the two of them. This is his reward for the last mission, but he went out of the village to perform a mission again, so the Anbu put the money here with me. Obito was stunned for a long time after hearing this. In the end, he could only sigh. Oh, I really want to graduate quickly and become a ninja to make money. Yingshu beside him blinked, then looked at Kakashi meaningfully. Graduation early, and then Chunin and Jonin. Kakashi has such a record. This record is so powerful that even Uchiha Itachi could not achieve it in the future. It's just that the reason behind this record is a bit sad. Yingshu calculated the time, and that thing seemed to be getting closer and closer. A generation of strong people could not die on the battlefield, but died in the rumors of his own people, and died in his own glass heart. No matter how you listen to it, it feels a bit abstract. After lunch, the three came to the familiar grove again. The three of them came to practice, but they did not choose a simple and rough battle, but took out the scroll left by Orochimaru. There is a common ninjutsu in the scroll, which is of medium difficulty. It is not something that the three trainee ninjas can touch. But obviously, the three of them did not care about this. Kakashi even said that, if he wanted these ninjutsu, he could ask his father for it. This made Yingshu think about it. Maybe he can go to Kakashi's house to eat ninjutsu in the future? Of course, White Fang must be alive. But that will happen in the future, and Yingshu can't do anything about it now. Obito, is this fire style, Great Fire Dragon too difficult for you? Iki asked with a strange expression. Do you want to master the Great Fireball first? This is not a provocation. Iki is really worried that Obito will bite off more than he can chew. But if Obito wants to learn, he will definitely not hold back. He is afraid that, if he doesn't learn the Great Fire Dragon, he will forget the Great Fireball, which would be like picking up sesame seeds and throwing away watermelon rinds. It doesn't seem to be a big problem. Obito seemed to understand what Iki meant, but still wanted to give it a try. I'm actually quite familiar with the Great Fireball, and the seals of these two techniques are similar, so it should be possible. Well, Iki saw this and said no more, then looked at Kakashi with a serious expression. Kakashi seemed to know what Iki was going to say, and his expression became serious. I said before, the jutsu that I'm going to use to change the world and create a new era, the ideal situation is 3 people. Kakashi. Yes. Kakashi nodded seriously. Iki continued, this lightning escape, you and I should learn it at the same time, so that it will be convenient for me to allocate chakra in the future. Wait until Obito learns the Great Fire Dragon, then we can try it. 3 people can use it at the same time. It is definitely not that simple to perform a multi-person combined ninjutsu, and Iki has realized this a long time ago. Although he can perform the two-handed and back-of-hand control of the bull, it is him after all, and he has full control authority. Warm reminder, the problem of logged-in users saving bookshelves across devices has been corrected. If you still cannot save, please remember the contents of the bookshelf first, clear the cookies of the browser, and then log in again, and add the bookshelf. One more person, one more brain, and one more thought, it must be necessary to run in. I understand. Kakashi nodded immediately, secretly memorized the content on the scroll, and ran to practice. Yingshu was not idle either. Compared with Obito and Kakashi, he had the heaviest workload. Now he can only use 3 kinds of ninjutsu, lightning escape, water escape, and palm ninjutsu representing yang escape. Obito wants to master fire escape. He can't do it for the time being, but he must know both lightning escape and water escape, so as to reduce errors. At the same time, he also had to take care of the practice of palm ninjutsu to ensure that he could inject enough yang escape into the water escape. It was like one person doing 3 jobs, but Iki wanted more than that. What he wanted to master was the change of chakra attributes, because the second stage of hydrogen escape was to break through the theoretical barrier of reaction time. It can be said that it was far from the goal. The 3 boys practiced for an afternoon. There was no passionate battle, but there was a tacit understanding of involution. Obito tried his best to prove himself, and wanted to master the Great Fire Dragon before Kakashi learned the Thunder Escape. Iki didn't think so at first, but what if he mastered both at the same time, and Kakashi and Obito mastered one? The imagined sense of accomplishment made Iki's blood boil. After all, men are young until they die. But the time of involution ended before dusk. Because Iki also signed a temporary child labor agreement with that weird old man. Obito went with him, and good brothers naturally had to share the joys and sorrows. Kakashi didn't want to stop at first, but he couldn't resist Obito's provocation. Are you trying to practice secretly and then surpass the 2 of us? No. Kakashi was almost anxious when he was caught in the middle of it, but in the end, he had no choice but to follow. Just like that, the 3 of them came to the number 3 training ground in Konoha. However, after waiting for a long time, until the sun was about to set and the shy moon could be seen in the sky, the old man did not show up. Did he forget? Yingshu was puzzled. Did he think too much? So, the 3 of them went back to their homes, and looked for each other. Well, they had to go back to their homes. And Yingshu didn't know who it was. At this moment, in the area between the Uchiha clan and Konoha, a wolf-like figure fled quickly, and from time to time he looked back nervously, his face full of panic. This person was now bruised and dusty, and his original appearance could not be seen clearly, but the Uchiha clan emblem on his clothes could still confirm his identity as an Uchiha clan member. It was Uchiha Rii. At this moment, Uchiha Itsu was not as majestic as he was in the afternoon. He even dared to confront Orochimaru. He was really tough. There was only panic in his eyes now. In the Uchiha clan's territory, no matter how presumptuous Orochimaru was, he dared not do anything to him. But just now, he really experienced a moment of life and death. He couldn't even see where the enemy was, and how he attacked. He only knew that he was a ninja of Earth escape, and he was extremely powerful. He didn't have time to resist at all. If he hadn't reacted quickly enough, he might have been buried underground by the Earth escape. God knows what happened. This is Konoha. It's almost there. It's almost there. Uchiha Itsu kept muttering. As long as he reaches the Uchiha clan's territory, his life will not be in danger. Behind him, a figure stopped chasing. He was wearing ragged clothes and a cheap mask sold at a roadside stall. The man looked at the back of Uchiha Rii who was escaping and sneered. The laugh was so disdainful, but it sounded a little old. Obviously not from a young man. That's it? Even Uchiha can't do it anymore. Warm reminder, if you think this book is good, please remember to add it to your bookshelf to avoid not finding it next time. Chapter 23, Grow Taller or Become Stronger? At nightfall, Yingshu finished his ninjutsu training, and now his mind is indeed a little confused. The main reason is still Orochimaru. Although Yingshu is grateful for what Orochimaru has done, if possible, he still wants to draw a clear line between himself and Orochimaru. But just when Yingshu was at a loss, there was a sudden noise at the door. Who? Yingshu immediately looked over, walked to the door and opened it, but there was no one in front of him. But there was a strong wind, which brought a little coolness to this summer. Just when Yingshu closed the door and prepared to go back to bed early to conserve his energy to deal with the inner world of tomorrow, a figure suddenly appeared in his room, and Ikki's face changed instantly. Fuck! Ikki shouted, and instinctively started to make a Rasengan. Before the hydrogen escape entered the first stage, the Rasengan will be Ikki's common skill to deal with emergencies, such as the Uchiha bastard. Also, it is used to establish his leadership position in the 3-person team. Kakashi can't do anything about this trick now, and he is so angry. It's just that Minato of Konoha didn't know about it before the mission was carried out. Otherwise he would definitely regret teaching Ikki. But when Ikki saw the figure clearly, the chakra in the palm of his hand dissipated again. Yingshu's expression became extremely strange. Why is it you? Heh. I told you that you have my chakra mark on you. I can catch you, even if you escape from Konoha. Why, it's only the first day, and you want to be a tree. It was the weird old man who was older than Guji. Yingshu didn't see him in the afternoon, and thought that the old man had forgotten about it, because of his age, but he killed him that night. Obito and I waited for you until sunset, but you never showed up. What can I do? Yingshu frowned and said. He didn't have a good day today. First, Uchiha Gale escape broke the hydrogen escape, and then Orochimaru gave him a lollipop. Although it was a surprise, Yingshu was exhausted physically and mentally after a day. He was very unhappy. So, naturally, he didn't treat this weird old man who suddenly broke into his house with a good face. However, the weird old man's reaction was exactly the opposite of Yingshu. He seemed to be in a good mood today, with a rosy face, and even his drinking posture was more unrestrained. Forget it today, I'll make up for it later. The old man waved his hand, poured another sip of wine into his mouth, and when Yingshu was confused, he suddenly looked at Yingshu. Boy, the feeling of not being able to beat others is not good. Yingshu was stunned when he heard it. Because a lot of things happened today, Yingshu's subjective consciousness instinctively associated it with Uchiha Rii. Then, still instinctively, he excluded the old man who was not there, and substituted it into the matter of being forced to work. This change of mindset only lasted for a moment, but in that moment, a new question popped up in Yingshu's mind. Who exactly was the old man referring to? Yingshu was a liberal arts student, and he was still on the literary and artistic path in philosophy. He didn't understand finance or war, so he had been struggling since he traveled through time. He couldn't even be self-sufficient at Ichiraku Ramen, and he almost got privately taught a lesson by someone else's boss when he challenged him to a fight. But this didn't affect Yingshu's quick thinking and his unyielding passion. It didn't matter who the old man was referring to. What mattered was whether he was happy or not. It's very uncomfortable. Yingshu looked directly into the old man's eyes and said firmly, this feeling is very strange. There is a biting feeling all the time, which makes me feel suffocated, but I can't help thinking about it. I even began to imagine that I had gained powerful strength to defeat the enemy for nothing, and I pressed it on the floor and rubbed it again and again until I bled. Warm reminder, the problem of logged-in users saving bookshelves across devices has been corrected. If it still cannot be saved, please remember the contents of the bookshelf first, clear the browser cookies, then log in again, and add it to the bookshelf. But I know that I can't do it now. Uchiha Being's cousin's biological brother is very strong. It is no exaggeration to say that the square roots of the two are not in the same order of magnitude. It's a bit like the difference between a professional boxer and an internet celebrity's biceps. Rasengan and hydrogen escape are indeed powerful techniques, and their future prospects are aimed at changing the world. but Iki knows that his foundation is too weak. His physical skills, experience, and chakra are not as good as Uchiha, who should be a chunin. In terms of combat experience, he is even a little behind Kakashi. In the final analysis, a child's fight and a ninja battle are not on the same level at all. Iki's words seemed to be an answer, but in fact they were self-reflection. He is still far from it. The old man opened his mouth and was speechless for a moment because of Iki's answer. No, are the kids nowadays so precocious? The old man felt that the words he had prepared a long time ago suddenly became meaningless, and he couldn't help but ask, then what are you going to do? What? Yingshu rolled his eyes and spread his hands speechlessly. Of course I will become stronger. I can't wait for others to help me, right? I also want to have a Hokage as my father. It's not impossible. I don't know why. After hearing what Yingshu said, the old man's eyes suddenly became evasive. But soon he suppressed this strange feeling, crossed his legs, gulped down the wine, and the blush on his face became even more intense. That's true. Yingshu rolled his eyes again. So, you came to my house so late just to make sure if I went this afternoon? Now that you know, you can go. I'm growing up now, my nutrition is not keeping up, and I can't fall behind in sleep. Yingshu didn't say anything angrily. The old man paused in his drinking, and when he realized that he was kicked out, he immediately returned to his irritable look. What nonsense. When I was your age, I could fight with Uchiha for 3 days and 3 nights, but I didn't see. Halfway through his words, the old man realized that he had let the cat out of the bag. His expression suddenly changed. He was about to speak to make amends, but after seeing the thoughtful expression of Yingshu, he sighed again. Forget it, I will find out sooner or later. The old man thought to himself, and took another sip of wine. After all, at your age now, in addition to growing taller, it is more important to develop your body. None of those powerful ninjas went to bed early when they were young and then grew up overnight. As the old man spoke, he stood up and walked straight to the door. You are lucky, kid. I think you have good chakra skills and your cunning personality makes you suitable for being a ninja. If you want to become stronger, come to me every morning before dawn. Of course, if you are afraid that you will not grow taller if you don't get enough sleep, don't come. After the old man finished speaking, he shook his head and laughed strangely. Along with this laugh, the old man's figure disappeared, just like when he came. Yingshu didn't see clearly how the old man did it, but it didn't matter whether he saw it clearly or not. Yingshu was a little excited at the moment. Senju, it's really Senju. This old man is really a Senju. He is older than the age of the founder of Konoha village, even older than Sarutobi, Hiruzen and Kosuke, and has fought with Uchiha. If not the Senju, what other tribe could he be from? But here comes the problem. What on earth did this old man like about me? Iki's expression suddenly became strange. First, there was Minato's Rasengan in exchange for a semi-finished hydrogen escape. Then there was Orochimaru's generous gift of a lollipop. And now there is an old man who is 99% likely to be the Senju. Doesn't he feel good about his popularity? Warm reminder, there are functions such as switch between simplified and traditional Chinese, adjust font size, and reading background color in the upper right corner of the page. Chapter 24, The Boundness of Virtue, The Seal of Conscience. Sandaime-sama. HM. Tsukumo? When are you coming back? Is the situation very bad? Late at night, at the residence of the Sandaime Hokage and head of the Sarutobi clan, Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was working overtime to review documents, looked at the dignified Ya who had just returned from a reconnaissance mission, and his expression suddenly became serious. As you expected, Sandaime-sama. Ya took out a scroll with dried blood from his arms and handed it to Sarutobi Hiruzen. Iwagakure followed soon, Agakure and Kumogakure, and tore up the peace contract. Sarutobi Hiruzen opened the scroll, watched for a while, and his eyes gradually became cold. The content of this scroll, which was exchanged for the lives of countless Konoha ninjas, is actually very simple. Iwagakure has gathered a large number of ninjas and is heading to the border of the land of the earth. The vanguard has crossed the Kamimu Bridge and is waiting in hiding in the land of the grass. They are heading straight for Konoha. Tsukumo. Sarutobi Hiruzen carefully put away the scroll, and his voice was already a little murderous. The old ninja, although he has passed his prime years, is still as majestic as a lion under the setting sun. Only Kiryu is missing. It seems that the third ninja world war cannot be stopped, Sandane-sama. Jiga responded in a deep voice. In fact, everyone with a discerning eye knows that it is only a matter of time before Kiryu joins the battlefield. Moreover, the direction of attack will most likely be the same as other ninja villages, just like the previous ninja world wars, heading straight for Konoha. The gap between Konoha and other ninja villages is too big. In the first ninja world war, a ninjutsu professor emerged, and in the second, there were Nishiki Fang and the three ninjas. From the first ninja world war to now, although each of them is always in the consumption stage, Konoha, with its many talents, has always sat firmly on the throne of the first ninja village. And this kind of existence that breaks the balance is not allowed by human nature. Kirigakure has launched an attack. Sarutobi Hiruzen found a scroll, also with dried blood stains, and threw it to Nishiki Fang. Nishiki Fang caught it carefully, which was the last respect for those heroes who could not even be buried in Konoha. Kirigakure has forged 7 powerful ninja swords. The holders are all elite jonin, known as the 7 ninja swordsmen. They are powerful and cruel, and have destroyed a small country. Now, they are heading towards Konoha. Sarutobi Hiruzen had picked up a smoke gun without knowing when. As Hiruzen read the scroll of intelligence, he smoked a cigarette. After a while, the whole room was filled with smoke. The 7 ninja swordsmen. Jiga pondered for a moment, and when he raised his head, his eyes were already filled with sharp light. Hokage-sama, I just don't know whose swords are sharper, these people's swords or mine. Jiga. Jiga was full of fighting spirit, and took the initiative to ask for mercy, but he did not notice the strangeness in Sarutobi Hiruzen's eyes. You have a more important mission, Tsukumo. Sarutobi Hiruzen understood Naga's request perfectly and said, as for Mist Hideki, I have let the Hyuga clan take full responsibility. With a large number of Hyuga people, the effectiveness of Mist Hideki techniques will be reduced to a minimum. We don't seek victory, but we should have no problem containing them. Sarutobi Hiruzen exhaled a puff of smoke and continued, compared to Mist Hideki, the battlefields of Iwagakure and Kumogakure are where you are most needed, Tsukumo. Naga was stunned for a moment, and immediately leaned over and half knelt. Yes, Hokage-sama. At dawn. Dawn is approaching. After washing up, Yingshu made a decision that went against his ancestors' teachings. He had to eat instant noodles for breakfast today. After eating and drinking, Yingshu stepped out of the house, wearing the starlight at dawn, facing the breeze, with firm steps. Today will be his first day of punching in and becoming stronger. Not long after, Yingshu had arrived at the number 3 training ground. The old man had not arrived yet, but Yingshu was not worried. He found a place by himself, and refined his chakra, but his mind was simulating the operation of the new ninjutsu. Compared with last night's wandering thoughts and restless mood, Yingshu at this moment seemed very serious. After 2 lives, the worldview has changed, but the values have not changed. It's nothing more than a way of fighting. From 996 to fighting and killing. Finally, when the moon was taken away by the clouds, the morning sun was about to come out. The figure of the old man finally appeared. Warm reminder, the problem of saving bookshelves across devices for logged-in users has been corrected. If it still cannot be saved, please remember the contents of the bookshelf first, clear the browser cookies, log in again, and add it to the bookshelf. Yo. The old man saw Yingshu, and wanted to tease him, by saying you came quite early, but after seeing Yingshu's serious face, the old man gradually became serious. I'm ready, let's start. Yingshu's enthusiasm made the old man a little uncomfortable, but he felt that this was the true face of this little guy. Just like those people who were playing as slaves. Hit me, the old man said shockingly. But Yingshu was indifferent, standing there, staring at the old man, with a somewhat puzzled look in his eyes. Just imagine me as the person you hate the most, and do it quickly, don't waste time. The old man urged impatiently, but Yingshu shook his head, as if he was bound by morality, and sealed by his conscience. The old man became even more impatient. There is no need to imagine. But, with 2 Rasengan in his left and right hands, Yingshu rushed directly to the old man. Yingshu had read a lot of novels before, and he was familiar with the process. Only by trying his best, the old man could know everything about him more clearly. The old man looked at Yingshu, who rushed over, and now it was his turn to be confused. No need to imagine, bastard. You little brat are. The old man, who should have entered the rage mode, was suddenly stunned, and then the corners of his mouth curled up. Is this also one of your ways of attack? I really don't know who you look like, he murmured in his mouth, and his eyes were full of relief. But all this happened in a flash. The old man raised his 2 fingers, which was regarded as a seal, and the majestic chakra immediately took control of this piece of land. Your momentum is good, but your speed is not fast enough, and your intention is too obvious. This is not a street fight, kid. The old man mobilized his chakra. He was about to bury Yingshu in the soil and start over. This will be Yingshu's first lesson. What is the heart's beheading? But at this time, don't try to trick me twice with the same trick. Stinky old man. With Yingshu's roar, Yingshu slammed one hand on the ground, and the Rasengan in his hand burst out chakra. The violent force directly smashed a hole in the ground. Destroying the grass is secondary. The most important thing is that the old man's chakra buried underground was also dispersed. However, Ike's attack did not decrease, and his speed increased. The remaining Rasengan was pointed directly at the old man, and his free hands were rubbed again. Ike had actually discovered this problem during this time. When Obito recovered naturally and did not refine chakra, he could use 3 great fireballs a day, which was the limit. And he, under the same circumstances, could rub out more than a dozen Rasengan a day, excluding the possibility that his Rasengan was a mini chicken Rasengan like Boruto's. Ike came to a conclusion. It seems that his chakra amount is much more than that of normal people. And now, facing this old man with 1,000 hands, Ike actually has a bold guess in his heart. Is there a possibility? The reason why he doesn't have a last name is not because he is of the same generation as Orochimaru and Jiraiya. Is it possible that he is following the path of Tsuna? This conjecture is very bold, even close to a dream. But because of this, Yingshu feels that it is not completely impossible, and even has some expectations. Anyway, even if he thinks too much, it won't be a loss, right? Besides, what if dreams come true? Warm reminder, in order to facilitate everyone's book selection, the ranking page of the website has been optimized. You can try it. Chapter 25. 1 month later. A month passed in a flash. On this day, Yingshu got up early as usual, boiled water, washed up, and ate instant noodles. But before going out, he saw a special day marked on the calendar. Yingshu paused and raised his eyebrows. It's been so long. Today is the birthday of the original owner of this body, and also the death anniversary of the original owner's parents. Today is also the 180-day anniversary of his time traveling through time. Yingshu turned his head and looked at himself in the mirror again. He was still handsome, but a little darker and thinner, and he looked leaner. And on the outside of his thigh, there was a ninja tool bag tied, and the whole person looked more like a ninja. 1 month is not too long or too short, but it is enough for people to get rid of some bad habits or develop good habits. And for Yingshu, who practiced hard, his ninja quality has also made a qualitative leap in 1 month. Ninja quality is not only about physical skills, ninjutsu, genjutsu, etc., but also a series of skills that ninjas must have. The things that the old man instilled in Yingshu seemed to have no sense of measure and boundaries. For example, the concealment of breath and traces, environmental combat analysis, secret language and intelligence surveys, and even assassination precautions, etc. These are things that cannot be learned in the ninja school, where there is only the will of fire instilled in various ways, and the basic rules of ninjas such as the 3 prohibitions. With Ike's current strength, even if he chooses to graduate early, he can probably pass the test in a few minutes and break Kakishi's record. But he didn't do that. Konoha has obviously been a little deserted during this period. Ordinary people are fine, but there are fewer and fewer ninjas strolling and relaxing in the streets and alleys. The Third Ninja World War has completely started. Graduation now means going to the battlefield. Ike is not afraid, but Obito is not. Although Obito has mastered the Great Fire Dragon given by Orochimaru, with 2 fire escapes in his hands, he is no longer afraid of Uchiha Wakaka. But it is still a long way from the real battlefield and the real fight. Whoosh. A shuriken was shot out, but Yingshu's hands were not idle. He quickly formed a seal and a water ninjutsu, water bullet, was formed in an instant. Thud, 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 thud. Although it was a waterless place, Yingshu's chakra could support the release of this water ninjutsu. The speed of the water bullets was extremely fast. They were not dense, but there were a lot of them. The old man just dodged the shuriken, and immediately found that he had lost all the angles to dodge. Good boy. The old man's eyes flashed with admiration, and he didn't see him forming a seal. He stepped on the ground with his big feet, and a plain earth wall suddenly rose. Bang, 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 bang. The water bullets hit the earth wall one after another, with a huge momentum, but the killing power was basically zero. But the old man behind the earth wall had no intention of taking the enemy lightly. He even began to make seals with his hands. Earth style, earth flow wall. An earth wall comparable to the gate of a ninja school rose from the ground. And the next second, boom. The explosion sounded immediately, and the whole forest seemed to be shaken. The early bads had insects to eat, but they didn't know there was an explosion. Dust and smoke rose up, and the old man walked out in another direction. He looked at the earth flow wall with a big hole in it, and the shock in his eyes flashed away. Damn. Come again. Yingshu didn't believe it, and his hands immediately made a complex seal, more than 20 in total. Warm reminder, the problem of logged in users saving bookshelves across devices has been corrected. If you still cannot save, please remember the contents of the bookshelf first, clear the cookies of the browser, then log in again, and add it to the bookshelf. In the scroll given by Orochimaru, the only ones that Iki can practice at present are lightning style, thunder blast and water style, water round. Iki has not yet reached the threshold of the change of chakra properties, but this does not prevent him from developing hydrogen style to the second stage. Starting from the seal, chakra is directly integrated into the ninjutsu formation stage. This has to be thanked to Orochimaru. All the ninjutsu given to him seem to be random, and are benevolent food. After watching Iki practice it, I was suddenly surprised. Orochimaru is a cold gentleman, a disciple of the professor of ninjutsu, and a future great scientist with a unique vision. The lightning release, lightning blast, given to him is originally a medium to short range lightning release, which uses chakra to condense into lightning, and strikes within a limited range. It complements the water release, water chain bomb. Even without the premise of the hydrogen release, ordinary water chain bombs can be combined with the lightning explosion, allowing the water bombs to carry lightning release and double the power. And in Yingshu's case, the power has to be multiplied by n times. One water bomb after another was formed, but with a blessing of lightning, it turned into an air bomb. Yingshu took out a detonating tag with a kunai from the ninja tool bag, and was about to shoot it on the spot. It's over. At this moment, the old man suddenly shouted loudly, and just as Yingshu was stuck, he used his chakra to activate the gap of the detonating talisman. Yingshu was stunned, but soon recovered from his shock, and put away the detonating talisman. The hydrogen in front of him also dissipated. You really should save money, kid. The money from a detonating talisman is enough for you to eat instant noodles for a week, right? I don't know if you feel sorry for it, the old man said without anger. But Yingshu smiled faintly. Since he got together with Kakashi, the little kid, detonating talismans and other things are really enough for him. He and Obito had the honor of visiting the ninja tool library of Kakashi's family. They bought all kinds of ninja tools by the box. That scene was something that poor people would never see in their lifetime. At that time, Iki had the urge to steal and sell them to improve his life. But strangely, his living expenses this month not only did not return to normal, but doubled again to 2,000 taels. This was 4 times more than his previous hard days of 500 taels a month. It is no exaggeration to say that he dared to buy the most expensive instant noodles, and he dared to buy milk and eggs in a week's quantity. However, Iki did not feel complacent for having achieved such an achievement at such a young age. Instead, he had a sense of crisis. If nothing unexpected happens, this sudden fortune may be due to Orochimaru's face. Okay, your training will be like this for now, and you don't need to come in the future. Just when Yingshu was complacent, the old man suddenly spoke, leaving Yingshu stunned. What? I said you don't need to come in the future. The old man looked at Yingshu angrily. You are young, it's okay to sleep less for a few hours, but how old am I? An old man? I accompany you every day. Anyway, the special training is over. When you master the changes in the nature of chakra, come to me again. The old man said, patting his old waist, and walked out of the forest, leaving Yingshu with only his back. Really? I don't know how many days of rest I need to recover. The old man's complaints could still be vaguely heard, but Yingshu looked at him with more respect. He bowed deeply in the direction the old man left. Although I don't know your name, thank you, old man. The old man seemed to be very sensitive about his identity. Yingshu once tried to elaborately say it unintentionally, but the old man always made up excuses to get around it. However, Yingshu no longer bothered about this issue. Even if it was the disappeared Senju, it didn't matter. This once glorious clan had disappeared, and all he could do was to pay the highest respect to it. And be grateful to the old man. At that time, Yingshu also made a decision in his heart to master the changes of chakra attributes as soon as possible. The old man seemed to have no children, so he couldn't waste this earth escape. Warm reminder, this site uses cookie technology to save your reading records and bookshelf, so clearing browser cookie data, reinstalling the browser and other operations will make your reading progress disappear. It is recommended to occasionally take a screenshot and save the bookshelf to prevent you from finding the novel you are reading. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.